I, on the other hand, was absolutely vibrating with excitement to buy groceries and cook. Back in the day, my darling wife felt like she was utterly useless. So, to prevent her self-esteem from taking a nosedive, I shoved my identity as a world-class master chef into the closet and embraced the vanilla average Joe lifestyle with her. But honestly, going cold turkey on cooking gave me full-body hives. Today, the wifey announced she was chained to her desk for overtime and wouldn't be home. Just to be absolutely bulletproof, I called her to triple-check. What my clueless brain didn't realize was my wife had secretly signed us up for a reality TV show, Decoding Your Better Half. Secretly planted 738 pinhole cameras in our house watching me dial the phone with manic glee. The netizens in the live stream instantly grabbed their popcorn. Because let's face it, we've all seen this cliche a million times in soap operas. Wife is away, the husband immediately calls his sneaky link. My wife, Elara, suddenly started sweating bullets too. After they got married, their social circle shrank significantly. If there was nothing important, he wouldn't actively contact any friends. But just as she was overthinking, Elara's phone suddenly rang. Realizing it was me calling, she let out a massive sigh of relief and looked at the host, Serafina. The latter immediately flashed a shush gesture to the on-site staff. Only then did she whisper, "You can answer it. Hello, wifey. It's already 11:30. Are you not home yet?" My stomach is throwing a tantrum. Elara immediately put on her acting hat and said, "I'm not coming back today. Got to work overtime. You just figure out your own lunch. The money I gave you this morning should be more than enough." My heart did a little happy dance, and then I asked, "Are you absolutely 100% sure you're not coming back?" This bizarre reaction made Elara's suspicion radar beep wildly. Why on earth did he need to double-check? Could this guy actually be hiding a ghost in the closet? So she doubled down. "I have to work overtime. It's super busy today. Just eat by yourself. All right, give me a ring before you head back." After saying that, I hung up the phone. At this moment, the livestream chat was dead silent. He is totally guilty. I'm already smelling the scent of a scandalous secret. Let's keep watching. This dude checked 3 times to make sure his wife wasn't coming home. He definitely has some shady extracurricular plans. I smell secrets. Host Serafina's face also looked a bit awkward. "Miss Elara, do you usually go home to eat lunch with your husband?" "Yes, because takeout is just a recipe for bad health, so we rarely eat it. My company is quite close to home anyway. I usually just go home to eat." "Well, maybe your husband is just a little upset that you aren't coming back, after all." However, before she could finish her sentence, on the screen, right after hanging up the phone, I literally launched myself into orbit, throwing up double peace signs. I wiggled my hips with majestic sass and started singing a fabulously off-key song. The corners of Elara's mouth twitched violently. Host Serafina's face had the word "awkward" written all over it in bold font. How does this look like a sad man? He looks like he wishes his wife would never come home to cook. "Miss Elara, is your cooking, by any chance, a weapon of mass destruction? Your husband is celebrating avoiding your food like he just won the lottery." Elara's eyes were practically shooting laser beams by now. "This absolute turtle egg. Just wait until I get home and show him who's boss." At this moment, I had zero idea that my Grammy-worthy performance was being broadcasted in high definition to my beloved wife. I spread out like a starfish on the sofa again, picked up my phone, and made another call. Everyone's eyes immediately glued to the giant screen. This guy is making another call. See, look, what did I just say? I bet my life savings this call is to some secret spicy senorita. All men are trash. Well, let's not jump the gun. Before we see the results, let's keep our wild conspiracy theories in check. My voice echoed from the screen. "Did you see what I just sent you? You saw it, right? Great. Get it ready and bring it over. Make it snappy." I'm literally dying of impatience over here. Unfortunately, nobody could hear what the person on the other end was saying. After hanging up, it was obvious I was hyped beyond belief. The livestream chat went pin-drop silent. This phone call is incredibly sus. Elara was already regretting signing up for this show. This was the very first time she realized that her husband had an entire mountain of secrets behind her back. Who was that call to? Who did he want to hurry over? And he couldn't even wait. If she weren't sitting in front of millions of netizens, Elara might have literally rolled up her sleeves and marched home to throttle me. After a brief silence, the live stream exploded with debates. Based on the evidence, there's an 80% chance of cheating, and a 20% chance he's just calling his bros. Things are getting spicy now. Never judge a book by its cover. Being handsome has its perks. If I were as good-looking as Callahan, with a body that explosive, what beauty could possibly resist? Hey, are we gonna get to see a free PG-13 romance drama soon? Is it really okay for us to watch this so openly? Host Serafina quickly turned to Elara beside her. "Miss Elara, don't panic just yet. Let's just observe the situation for now." Elara nodded, but her face was as dark as storm clouds. If I really was cheating, she honestly had no idea how she would face the rest of her life. Her mind was a chaotic tornado. Not long after, my doorbell rang. Everyone's eyes instantly locked onto the big screen like hawks. They saw me jog all the way to the door. The door clicked open. A pretty young lady dressed in casual clothes walked in. In that exact second, Elara's brain went buzz and completely flatlined. It's over, it's so over, he really is cheating. No wonder he checked 5 times to make sure his wife was gone. He actually ordered a sneaky link delivery. This god-forsaken dog of a man. Someone should just snip off his little joystick right now. I used to wonder how such a handsome guy fell for her. Turns out he's just a certified scumbag. The comment section instantly erupted into a fiery crusade against me. But right at that dramatic climax, the pretty lady spoke up. Here is the tofu, bamboo shoots, and chicken breast you ordered. Everything is prepared exactly to your specifications. The total is $73. You can scan my shop's QR code. I took the black plastic bags and immediately scanned her code to pay. If Mr. Callahan needs any other groceries, feel free to WeChat me anytime. I'll be taking my leave now. After saying that, the delivery lady strutted right out. The moment the door clicked shut, Elara let out a breath so massive it could have powered a windmill. But wait, why was he buying groceries? They had been married for 3 years, and he absolutely could not cook. So it turns out your husband just ordered groceries on WeChat, Serafina said with a chuckle. The netizens in the chat were collectively wearing clown makeup. Look at all of you, measuring a gentleman's heart with a villain's yardstick. What kind of dirty minds do you have? I remember your ID. You were the one spamming the chat saying he was cheating. The truth is finally out. The man is literally just buying vegetables. Look at you all screaming and making a fuss out of nothing. If he isn't ordering takeout, why buy groceries? Is he planning to cook himself? But I remember Miss Elara saying her husband has 0 cooking skills. Maybe he's prepping a romantic dinner for tonight? Elara and Serafina shared the exact same thought. The two of them stared at the giant screen. But Elara's brain snagged on a completely different issue. I gave you $50 when I left the house. Where on earth did you pull $70 from to pay for that? And you didn't even blink. A secret stash. I knew it. He absolutely has a secret stash of money, Serafina chimed in. It seems he's thinking quite far ahead. He got the ingredients ready for tonight, just waiting for you to come home and cook for him. Elara nodded, but then frowned again. I know how to make tofu, I guess, but I'm pretty terrible at it. I wonder what kind of dish he expects me to make for him. After that, the two continued to watch the big screen. They wanted to see how I planned to survive lunch. But to everyone's shock, after grabbing the plastic bags, I literally sprinted straight into the kitchen. Then I rolled up my sleeves, got my trusty cleaver ready, and emptied the contents of the bags onto the counter. Tofu, winter bamboo shoots, chicken breast, ham, fresh shiitake mushrooms. Honestly, a bunch of pretty basic stuff. Is he going to cook? Serafina stared at the screen, bewildered. Miss Elara, does your husband actually know how to cook? No way. Like I said before, we've been married for 3 years, and the man can burn scrambled eggs into charcoal, Elara said, her face a mask of utter confusion. Then maybe it's a sudden whim. Maybe he plans to teach himself. That's a solid possibility. The netizens' brains were being pulled along by their analysis. That's totally possible. Maybe he's practicing while the wife is away, trying to give his wife a sweet surprise. Good men like this are an endangered species now. Looking at the tofu he prepped, there's nothing special about it. He's probably starting with a super basic beginner recipe. Hold up a minute. I'm a chef. Why do these ingredients look weirdly familiar to me? Amidst the chatter, I had already tied on my apron, laying all the ingredients out neatly in front of me. Someone with a trained eye had finally caught on. That's it! I was wondering why these ingredients looked so familiar. This is literally the exact ingredient list for Wensi Tofu. Yes! I felt something was off earlier too. Looking at it now, this guy is actually attempting to make Wensi Tofu. That is one of the top 10 legendary national banquet dishes. Are you kidding me? An actual national banquet dish. Can this dude even pull that off? Whether he can pull it off or not, I don't know, but his ingredients are locked and loaded. Seeing that I was about to start cooking, the backstage crew quickly Googled the dish and forwarded the info to host Serafina's tablet. Serafina picked it up, took one look, and her eyes nearly popped out of her skull. What? A national banquet dish? Elara was even more dumbfounded. Wensi Tofu? Huayang cuisine? One of the top 10 national banquet dishes? It doesn't use any crazy spices for flavoring. It's all about ultimate precision. But this dish isn't something an average Joe can just whip up. It requires the chef to have god-tier supernatural knife skills. Serafina explained to the audience. Elara was now beyond confused. Of course she didn't believe Callahan could make this dish. She believed even less that he possessed any knife skills, because he once tried to slice a potato and ended up with a plate of chunky fries. She was just deeply puzzled. How did Callahan, a man allergic to the kitchen, even know about this fancy dish? Even if you want to learn how to cook, you don't start level 1 by tackling a national banquet final boss. What kind of circus trick was he trying to pull? Looking back at the screen, I casually pulled a meat cleaver from the knife block with one hand. At that exact moment, Elara's expression suddenly turned dead serious. Looks like he's actually going to cook. Miss Elara, this must be the very first time you've ever seen your husband cook, right? Even if he fails miserably, it's the thought that counts. Once he actually masters it, you'll be eating like a queen, Serafina teased with a smile. Right then, the director suddenly arranged for the crew to bring someone up onto the stage. It was a short, chubby man. His name was Barnaby. He was the lighting guy. Serafina, the director, arranged this. Barnaby used to be a chef for over 20 years. He only switched to lighting after a hand injury. He's going to provide some expert commentary. The staff member introduced him. Ah, I see. Serafina instantly got the idea. Callahan couldn't cook, so it was bound to be a glorious train wreck. Having Barnaby, a former chef, roast his mistakes in real time would keep the netizens entertained. It would definitely crank up the entertainment value. The show's director was a seasoned veteran. Seeing the situation, he instantly made the call. This was the magic of live broadcasting. Zero script. Everything was completely unpredictable. In previous episodes, when faced with similar situations, the director had also brought in pros to spice things up. Barnaby, are you familiar with Wensi Tofu? I know of it, but I've never made it. My knife skills were never quite at that level. My master used to make it though, Barnaby said, recalling the past. The cooking process for this dish isn't actually that complicated. The absolute make-or-break factor is the knife skills. Saying that, he looked at the live screen. I've watched the whole thing from the start. If this young man wants to learn how to cook, picking this dish is a terrible, terrible idea, because this dish is practically a final exam for knife skills. Without the knife skills, the rest is just mush. Just as he finished speaking, I made my move on the screen. I boiled a pot of water first. Then I picked up the cleaver again. First, I removed the stems from the shiitake mushrooms. Every single ingredient in this dish needs to be julienned into hair-like threads. The tofu and mushrooms need to be blanched in water. The fact that he's blanching them first means he's on the right track. Looks like he actually did his homework, Barnaby commentated. Worthy of a former chef. Even though he hadn't made Wensi tofu, he still knew the secret sauce behind it. After that, I started chopping the mushrooms. But the scene that followed made everyone's jaws drop to the floor. All they heard was a rapid-fire rat-tat-tat. The speed of my blade was supersonic. Through the screen, you couldn't even distinguish individual chops against the cutting board. It merged into one continuous, terrifying hum. Barnaby was instantly paralyzed. As a chef, he knew exactly what kind of monster speed that implied. The director reacted instantly. Camera crew, adjust the angle! Zoom in on the cutting board! Zoom in! Hurry! We're gonna miss it! By the time the staff adjusted the camera and zoomed in, I had already finished chopping. There weren't a ton of mushrooms to begin with, but even so, that was too fast. He literally finished slicing them all in a few seconds. How did he chop that? Did he just hack it blindly into mush? Wensi tofu requires them to be sliced into ultra-fine threads. But when everyone finally looked at the cutting board, the entire internet collectively short-circuited. Under the high-def lens, every single mushroom on the board was sliced into incredibly fine, perfectly uniform threads. It was high definition, but from that distance it was still hard to tell exactly how fine they were. Did anyone actually see what just happened? I bowed down to that chopping speed. Have my years as a chef been a total lie? Shiitake mushrooms are insanely fragile. Julienning them is an absolute nightmare. And Callahan actually chopped them to that level? Oh my god, this is the guy who turns scrambled eggs into charcoal? Why do I suddenly feel like I'm being scammed? On stage, Serafina and Elara were also frozen like statues. One couldn't believe her eyes, and the other, Elara, felt her entire worldview shattering into tiny pieces. Even a fool could tell those knife skills were god tier. The two women snapped their heads toward Barnaby in unison. Barnaby, explain this! Barnaby's face looked incredibly complicated. Shiitake mushrooms are indeed notoriously hard to slice. I'm sure most of you haven't really seen shredded shiitake mushrooms, right? Mostly just mushroom slices, because they break apart so easily. To slice them into fine threads, you must be fast, accurate, and ruthless. But if the knife is fast, precision usually drops. This requires hardcore foundational skills, insanely masterful foundational skills. I didn't catch that sequence clearly just now. But judging by the end result and his stance, you can't pull off that kind of work without at least 10 years of hardcore knife training. Barnaby's words sent shockwaves through the audience. It was a pity the camera was still a bit too far away. Resting on the cutting board, it was hard to see clearly just how impossibly fine he had chopped them. It was hard to judge. Barnaby squinted his eyes, staring at the screen for a long time, pondering aloud. Right at that moment, as if to validate everyone's wild theories, I leisurely pinched a tiny cluster of mushroom threads, held them up to my eye level and inspected them. And thanks to that exact movement, the camera perfectly locked focus. Everyone could clearly see that those mushroom threads were as thin as human hair. Barnaby sucked in a sharp breath of cold air. His face was a portrait of pure disbelief. I take back what I just said. 10 years of training couldn't slice it that fine. This requires at least 20 years of non-stop knife work. And he has to be an incredibly seasoned culinary grandmaster. On the screen, I even gave my own work a little critique. Not bad. My skills haven't gotten rusty. Serafina was considered a famous figure in the hosting world, usually blessed with a silver tongue. Right now, she couldn't find a single adjective. Elara sitting opposite her was even more dramatic. Her brain was experiencing a Category 5 hurricane. Her perception of Callahan completely imploded in that single moment. Married for 3 years, I've been slaving away cooking for you for 3 damn years, and you're actually a literal kitchen god? Miss Elara, I think this might just be a fluke, maybe? After all, you did say he burned scrambled eggs. Serafina tried to comfort Elara. It sounded somewhat logical. Let's keep watching, Elara muttered, her voice dark. I'll give him the benefit of the doubt for now. Let's see what else happens. I piled the finely shredded mushrooms to the side. Next up, peeling, washing, and julienning the winter bamboo shoots. Barnaby had said it himself, every single ingredient in this dish had to be shredded, and the thinner, the better. But honestly, slicing mushrooms into that state, using luck to explain it, was basically insulting everyone's intelligence. The motion of slicing the bamboo shoots was nearly identical, but this time the camera operator was ready. The focus was crystal clear. The entire chopping process was broadcasted for everyone to witness. The blade moved so fast it was literally a blur. Describing it as lightning fast wasn't an exaggeration at all. In merely a handful of seconds, I finished slicing the pile of winter bamboo shoots, equally as thin as human hair. Bamboo shoots are a totally different beast from mushrooms. Mushrooms crumble easily. Bamboo shoots are tough and stubborn, but the difficulty level is just as high. Bamboo shoots have very distinct, tough fibers. If you don't gauge the fibers perfectly, even if you slice them thin, they will snap and break into pieces instead of remaining threads. To chop them to this level of perfection, there is only one explanation: the chef's familiarity with the ingredient. A familiarity so deep that just touching it allows him to instinctively map out the structure and direction of the fibers, combined with terrifyingly flexible blade control. After laying out these facts, Barnaby looked directly at Elara. His meaning couldn't be clearer. Your husband is absolutely not a kitchen disaster who doesn't know how to cook. He is a culinary titan with god-tier knife skills. Elara's breathing started getting heavy. Opposite her, Serafina had no idea what to say anymore. In the 3 seasons of this show, this was the very first time they'd encountered a plot twist like this. If what Barnaby said was true and Callahan was truly a master chef, then he had hidden it way too deep. The netizens finally rebooted their brain. I saw it crystal clear this time. I bow down to these knife skills. That's way more than 20 years of practice. I've been a chef for over 30 years, and I'm a head chef. Even I can't reach that level of perfection. Good lord, this bro is way too overpowered. Just to get out of cooking duty, he hid his master chef identity for 3 whole years. That is just too cute. He hid so deep just to be a lazy couch potato. My husband gets off work soon. I'm going to interrogate him too. Let's see if he's secretly Gordon Ramsay's. At this point, Callahan knowing how to cook was basically an undeniable fact, and it seemed he was insanely good at it too. But just how good was yet to be revealed. Maybe he worked as a chef for a few years before he met you? Serafina offered a theory, but who would actually believe that? A few years as a chef gets you to this god level? Don't panic just yet. Let's keep watching, everyone. The core of Wensi Tofu is, obviously, the tofu. Slicing tofu to that degree is the absolute ultimate challenge. Barnaby thought for a second and threw in his professional 2 cents. As soon as he finished speaking, the water boiled. I seized the perfect moment, slapped a block of tofu onto the board, and began chopping with blinding speed. A familiar scene. There was more tofu, so the pace seemed a fraction slower, but it took no more than 30 seconds tops. When I was done, if you didn't look closely, you'd think there was just a puddle of mashed tofu paste on the board. It was genuinely sliced that fine. It looked as if it had been pulverized. Elara hurriedly looked at Barnaby. Barnaby, how many years does it take to reach this level? Barnaby shook his head slowly. I can't tell right now. Tofu has a lot of moisture. The slices tend to stick together. We won't know the truth until it hits the water. Just as he spoke, Callahan scooped up the puddle of tofu and gently slid it into the water. In an instant, it was like a celestial flower blossoming. Every single strand, every single thread, perfectly uniform and exquisitely fine. It bloomed like a flawless chrysanthemum in the water. Barnaby was so hyped he nearly jumped out of his chair. Back when I was still a chef, I had the absolute honor of watching a national banquet grandmaster make Wensi Tofu live, but even his work was a step below Callahan's. Elara gulped hard. She didn't even have the vocabulary to describe her current mood. She thought Callahan was an open book with 0 secrets. Who knew he was hiding a nuclear bomb? He didn't not know how to cook. On the contrary, he was better than the grandmasters. The tofu was briefly blanched. Next came the lettuce, chicken breast, and cooked ham. Under Callahan's hands, they were rapidly shredded into threads. Every single one was refined to the absolute extreme. Then a change of water, because blanching the tofu was specifically to remove the raw bean juice and the beanie flavor. After changing the water, he tossed the ingredients in one by one, adding just a pinch of salt. A light, pure yet astronomically difficult bowl of Wensi tofu was served. Callahan happily carried the bowl to the table. Just as he was gleefully about to dig in, ring, 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 the phone went off. Callahan glanced at it. It was the wife. He nearly jumped out of his skin. Oh crap, is she coming home? On stage, Elara gripped the phone, her eyes practically spewing hellfire. After hesitating for a few agonizing seconds, Callahan tapped the answer button. Wifey, Are you heading back? Callahan asked Elara. Opposite her, Serafina was furiously winking and making faces at Elara. If Elara blew her cover right now, the show would crash and burn instantly. But each episode was supposed to last for an entire month, meaning they were supposed to spy on Callahan for a month. Right now, this episode was turning into their most explosive hit ever. The netizens were screaming for more, and to be fair, it was incredibly entertaining. The thrill of unearthing someone else's juicy secrets had millions of viewers completely addicted. The viewership in the live stream had already smashed past 3 million. The peak viewership of the first 2 episodes combined was barely over 3 million. This single episode was about to outperform the entire series' history. They absolutely could not let Elara ruin it. Elara took a deep, calming breath and nodded at Serafina, signaling she understood the assignment. I'm not coming back, just calling to remind you, in case you completely forgot to eat your lunch. Elara was pissed, so she aggressively stressed the word eat. I'm eating right now. Callahan let out a massive sigh of relief. Oh really? What are you stuffing your face with? I ordered takeout. What takeout? Just ordered some tofu. What kind of tofu? Just homestyle tofu. I believe you about as far as I can throw you. Who on earth eats Wensi Tofu for a casual lunch? That's a literal national banquet dish. But Elara didn't plan to corner him on this topic just yet. Instead, she hit him with a heavy dose of sarcasm. Wow, and here I thought you were actually slaving away in the kitchen cooking for yourself. The moment those words dropped, Callahan nearly had a heart attack. He wildly spun around, scanning the room, making absolutely sure his wife wasn't peeking through a window. Wifey, are you actually at the office? Yeah, duh. What are you even talking about? How could I possibly cook? I don't have a single culinary bone in my body. As he spoke, he scooped up a spoonful of the glorious Wensi tofu and shoved it in his mouth. Are you absolutely certain you don't know how to cook? Elara couldn't hold back anymore, her tone dropping an octave. Callahan grew even more paranoid. He even stood up, ran over to the window and peeked outside. His guilty, sneaky rat behavior sent the live stream chat into a fit of hysterical laughter. Serafina stepped in at the perfect moment, prompting Elara not to push it any further. Otherwise, the gig would definitely be up. Elara realized she let her anger get the better of her, so she nodded. I'm going back to work. Enjoy your tofu. Click. She hung up. Callahan stood by the window looking utterly baffled. He kept looking back over his shoulder at the window like a paranoid squirrel. The netizens in the live stream were howling. This is comedy gold. Acting like a burglar in his own house. I'm so mad. Callahan actually lied to his wife for 3 whole years. I just interrogated my husband. He swears he can't cook, but I don't buy it. I'm gonna keep digging. I'm getting hungry watching this. I'm gonna order some takeout. Callahan shuffled back to the living room to finish his food, but his gut was screaming that something was off. His wife's reaction was just way too weird. Did she actually find out? He muttered to himself between bites. The bowl of Wensi tofu quickly vanished into his stomach, but he couldn't shake the creepy feeling. He replayed the day's events in his head. It didn't seem like he'd left any obvious clues. It shouldn't be possible. Callahan plopped onto the sofa and entered full detective mode. He hadn't cooked at all these past few days. Today was the perfect window of opportunity. The wife was doing overtime and wasn't coming home for lunch. Getting caught red-handed at the scene of the crime was impossible. His logic was sound. What he never could have imagined was that he was caught at the scene, and it was witnessed live by millions of netizens. From start to finish, in gloriously crisp HD. Could it be? A sudden thought struck him. He bounced off the sofa like a spring and sprinted into the smallest guest room in 3 giant strides. This highly suspicious behavior immediately triggered everyone's radar. Miss Elara, what room is that? Serafina asked. The guest bedroom, the smallest one. Since we rarely have friends stay over, we basically use it as a storage closet. Normally, we never even go in there, Elara answered instinctively. But thank God the show's crew had also installed a 360-degree camera in that very room. As Callahan bolted into the tiny room, the camera feed immediately locked onto him. What's this guy doing? Why is he acting so shady? I bet the production team accidentally spooked him. He's gonna check on his other dark secrets. Highly likely, but hiding secrets in a storage room, isn't that the first place someone would look? While they were debating, Callahan had already flipped up the mattress on the small bed. That bedboard can be lifted? Elara was startled. She had absolutely no idea. Underneath the bedboard lay a small box. Callahan carefully inspected it. Then he gingerly popped it open. Through the camera feed, they could see what was inside. It looked like a stack of official certificates, a very thick stack. Sadly, the camera couldn't read the tiny text on them. No problem here. Looks like I was just being paranoid. Callahan mumbled to himself. Then, with extreme care, he closed the lid. Only he could see the document sitting right on top. It read, Bocuse d'Or World Culinary Championship, First Place Certificate of Honor, and there was a whole mountain of these certificates underneath. After putting the bedboard back in place, Callahan dusted off his hands. He nodded in sheer satisfaction. Flawless. There's absolutely zero chance she'll ever find this. I was overthinking it. Returning to the living room, Callahan immediately wiped out the evidence. He didn't just toss the leftover scraps into the kitchen trash. He bagged them up and marched them all the way out to the public dumpster on the street. Honestly, there weren't many scraps left anyway. Callahan had purchased ingredients measured perfectly for one portion. His god-tier precision meant almost zero waste. After sterilizing the crime scene, he plopped back onto the sofa to play video games. At first glance, he looked exactly the same as when he woke up. If it weren't for this reality show, she never ever would have noticed a single clue. Elara's face turned even darker. Good lord, he's a repeat offender. Miss Elara, what are those little red booklets? Are they your marriage certificates? Not marriage certificates. Elara shook her head. She had never seen the stuff Callahan hid in there in her life. The camera was HD, sure, but the certificates were stacked up, so you could only vaguely see the top one, and the text was an unreadable blur. Tonight, after work, I'm going to see exactly what kind of ghost he's hiding, Elara muttered darkly. Even if the show didn't tell her to, she was absolutely going to snoop. She used to think Callahan had zero secrets, just an ordinary chill city guy, and he treated her well, like really, really well. But to think this guy was harboring a mountain of secrets in the dark! At this moment, Callahan remained blissfully unaware. His little secrets were on the brink of apocalypse. He was just happily mashing buttons on his controller. Watching someone play video games wasn't very exciting. So Elara and Serafina started chatting to pass the time. Since the cooking segment was over, there was nothing left for Barnaby to analyze. So he headed backstage. Miss Elara, we don't know what those certificates are just yet, but I'm sure you'll uncover them when you go home tonight. If I may ask, how did you and your husband meet? About 4 years ago. 4 years. So you knew each other for a little over a year before tying the knot, and now you've been married for 3. So when you first met him, what did he do for a living? Serafina kept digging for gold. He was already a freelancer back then. I never really pried into his past before that. Never really cared about those details either. During our casual chats, I don't think I ever heard him mention what he did before, Elara recalled. Then she reminisced about their time together. It wasn't exactly a roller coaster of wild adventures. Callahan treated her like royalty. In their quiet everyday life, neither of them liked noisy, chaotic scenes. Plus, Callahan's income was always solid, and Elara held a high position at her company. Their life was very comfortable and prosperous. No massive storms or drama. Elara always believed she knew Callahan inside out. Only now did she realize this guy was an undercover agent. But it wasn't necessarily a malicious secret. Faking it for 3 years just to dodge kitchen duty, that petty little motive almost made Elara laugh through her anger. The biggest mystery right now lay in those certificates. Elara made up her mind. Tonight, she was going to rip the lid off this mystery box. For the rest of the afternoon, Callahan didn't do anything else suspicious. When he got tired of gaming, he literally just went to sleep. About an hour before Elara was due to get off work, he slowly opened his laptop to do some actual freelance work. Watching him made Elara's blood boil even more. She had seen the comments from his clients. They were practically begging him to finish his work. Yet here he was, taking his sweet, sweet time. Seeing that it was about time, Elara drove home. The show continued its broadcast. The live stream ran straight through until 10 p.m. At that time, Serafina would sign off and go home. But the surveillance equipment would run 24/7, recording endlessly. Of course, when night fell, the cameras in the bedroom would be remotely shut off. Otherwise, if they decided to do some late-night wrestling, it would turn into a live adult broadcast. I'm home, Elara yelled as she unlocked the door. Callahan trotted out wearing his baggy shorts. Wifey, you're back! I'm a little starving. What fancy thing are you cooking for dinner? Callahan asked completely out of habit. The moment he mentioned cooking, Elara's rage meter instantly shot into the red. You still have the nerve to ask me to cook for you? When you were stuffing your face with national banquet food at noon, did you think about me? Suddenly, a wave of memories hit Elara. She remembered the countless times she'd pouted to Callahan, whining that she wanted to eat something delicious, and magically, after work, a feast would be waiting on the table. Those dishes, Elara always felt, weren't something a normal takeout place could produce. Callahan always claimed he bought them from a high-end restaurant, but even after carrying them all the way home, they still tasted divine. Elara had had her tiny suspicions back then, but she never overthought it. After all, Callahan was the man who turned eggs into charcoal. Looking back on it now, those feasts were definitely cooked by Callahan. Absolutely. 100% true. Why are you spacing out right after getting home? Wifey, how about some braised pork belly tonight? I'm craving it. Callahan, completely oblivious, suggested. Elara almost screamed, Eat dirt, you liar! But she swallowed it at the last second. Her eyes casually drifted toward the small guest bedroom down the hall. The secrets were in there, but how could she sneak in and check without setting off his alarms? That was the million-dollar question. Callahan was a freelancer. He almost never left the house. There were literally 0 openings. What are you looking at, wifey? Callahan asked, puzzled. His wife's behavior was definitely weird today. From the phone call to right now, everything felt off. But Callahan still didn't think his cover was blown. Because knowing his wife's explosive temper, if she found out, she would have already drop-kicked him through a wall. What he didn't realize was that if the show's producers hadn't begged her, Elara absolutely would have initiated an inquisition by now. Nothing. I'm going to make dinner. Elara shook her head and turned to the kitchen. The kitchen was spotless. You couldn't find a single trace that a national banquet dish was birthed here at noon. Those leftover scraps from the morning had been completely purged by Callahan. Not a single microscopic crumb of evidence remained. In the live stream, the netizens were still glued to their screens. Seeing Elara go home and start cooking, the viewers started getting antsy. How can she check that tiny room without alerting Callahan? Let's make some bold guesses first. Maybe the top certificate is a fake and the rest are just blank paper. Yeah. I mean, what kind of insane stuff do you have to do to earn that many certificates? Wait till he falls asleep tonight, then sneak out and check. I think that's the smartest move right now. Serafina hadn't clocked out yet, still guiding the audience on stage. I'll be signing off at 10 p.m. tonight, folks. But our live stream runs 24 hours a day. Our crew works in shifts. If any unexpected situations occur, we will immediately cut the feed. So please watch with peace of mind. The unexpected situations she mentioned had been explained by the showrunners previously. For example, if Callahan and his wife were chilling in the living room and suddenly got in the mood, the feed would be killed instantly. Of course, Elara knew about the cameras. She definitely wouldn't agree to any shenanigans. Or if any other extremely private secrets popped up that couldn't be broadcasted, the crew would do their best to cut the signal before they were exposed. Elara was cooking. Callahan was bored out of his mind watching TV on the sofa. Elara hated it when he played video games. So, whenever she was home, he absolutely never touched his console. That night after dinner, Elara did consider sneaking out to check. But because the two bedrooms were right next to each other, if she actually tried, even the sound of the door squeaking could wake Callahan up. In the end, Elara gave up. Beside her, Callahan was snoring like a chainsaw. Elara grabbed her phone and opened the live stream. She saw that the bedroom cameras had indeed been deactivated by the staff. She finally relaxed. Laying in bed, half asleep, she drifted off at some point in the night. The next morning, Elara didn't go to work, because today was finally the weekend. Serafina had arrived bright and early, taking control of the stage. Elara glanced at the livestream stats. Early in the morning, the viewer count had already smashed past 2 million. Elara had watched the first 2 episodes too, but they were nowhere near as viral as her own episode. Wifey, wanna go out and play today since it's the weekend? Callahan asked after brushing his teeth. Usually, on weekends, the two of them would go out somewhere, just to unwind. Not today. Work was exhausting this week. Before she could finish her sentence, Elara's phone suddenly rang. She checked the caller ID, put the phone to her ear, and answered. What? The investment was pulled. Why? But we had a rock-solid agreement. Why are they backing out now? The project is about to launch. Where am I supposed to find new investors at this stage? Can't we renegotiate the terms? Hello, the person on the other end hung up on her. Elara's face turned pale. What's wrong, wifey? Nothing. Elara shook her head. Just work stuff. Unless it was fantastic news, Elara never bothered Callahan with work problems. That was just her personality. One person stressing out was better than two. Plus, even if she told Callahan, he couldn't do anything to help anyway. Callahan knew Elara's stubborn nature well, so he didn't press the issue. Oh right, hubby, it's the weekend. I really want some of Xavier's sweet pastries. Xavier's sweet pastries? The one all the way in the West District? Yup! Elara nodded, staring holes into Callahan with puppy dog eyes. Forget about the work disaster for a second. She needed to pry open Callahan's secret box first. This was a brilliant strategy she had just hatched. Xavier's Sweet Pastries was located in the West District. It wasn't across the country, but a round trip would take at least half an hour. Half an hour was plenty of time for Elara to launch her espionage mission. And at this moment, Callahan remained blissfully unaware. His darkest secrets were seconds away from exposure. All right then, it's still early anyway. I'll grab breakfast on the way. How many sweet pastries do you want? 3. Rest your weary head, my queen. This humble servant shall return swiftly. With that, Callahan practically threw his clothes on, grabbed the car keys and dashed out the door. Elara stood by the window like a sniper, watching Callahan's car pull out of the apartment complex. Only then did she tiptoe sneakily toward the small guest bedroom. She pushed the door open. Callahan's 5-year-old secret was mere inches away. Seeing Elara's tactical maneuver, the netizens in the chat practically gave a standing ovation. Genius move, just send him on a side quest. Now she can inspect his secret stash in any pose she wants without fear. I can't wait anymore. Quick, pull out that box. He's not gonna pull a U-turn halfway, right? The immersion is too real. My palms are sweating. Meanwhile, Callahan had already left the complex, driving far away from home. The show's cameras obviously lost track of him. As he drove toward the West District, he pulled out his phone and dialed a number. A few seconds later, his voice dropped to a freezing chill. Investigate something for me. Who the hell made my wife upset? Back at the house, Elara stepped into the small bedroom. The scene was identical to yesterday. Elara crept up to the small bed. Following Callahan's exact method from yesterday, she flipped up the thick, dusty mattress that hadn't been slept on in ages. Underneath was the bedboard. The board wasn't insanely heavy, but Elara was still a girl. Lifting it up took quite a bit of effort. Right on the front side of the board, the small box was clearly visible. Elara struggled to hold the board up with one arm while desperately grabbing the box with the other. To unearth Callahan's secrets, she was putting her back into it. She pulled the box out, let the bedboard drop back down, and finally let out a massive breath. She walked into the living room and plopped onto the sofa. Elara set the box down on the coffee table. The cameras here were much closer and much clearer. The viewing experience was premium. Even though exposing her husband's secrets to millions of strangers felt a little sketchy, it was for a TV show after all. And Elara was still holding a grudge, so she went for it. Every single netizen in the live stream widened their eyes, staring intensely at the box. Total laser focus. Click. The box opened. Inside was the exact same stack of certificates from yesterday. She picked up the first one, and a line of bold text filled her vision. Bocuse d'Or World Culinary Championship. First place Certificate of Honor. Elara had no idea what a Bocuse d'Or was, but she definitely understood the second half. Culinary Championship, that meant cooking. A cooking competition, and Callahan won first place. The chat instantly exploded like a fireworks factory. What kind of tournament is this? Does anyone know? Oh my god! No matter what tournament it is, even if it's just a local city cook-off, winning first place is incredibly badass. Holy crap, my prediction was spot on. Callahan doesn't just know how to cook, quite the opposite. He's a master. A literal grandmaster. No wonder he whipped up a national banquet dish yesterday. Those terrifying knife skills. He's an absolute master. Wait. Hold up, I just googled this. This Bocuse d'Or World Culinary Championship is the absolute peak international event in the culinary world. I'm a chef, and I can confirm, the people who compete in this tournament are basically the top-tier master chefs or royal chefs from every country. At this moment, Elara held the certificate in one hand and her phone in the other, reading the live stream chat. Her brain completely flatlined. Yesterday, she was fairly certain Callahan knew how to cook, and that he was probably pretty decent at it, but she never in a million years imagined he was this overpowered. This was way too ridiculous. The champion of a world culinary competition. On stage, Serafina was also dumbfounded. This scenario is something our show has never encountered before. Is it possible that Callahan just found someone to print a fake certificate, just to boost his own ego? Her theory wasn't completely baseless. Everyone, please wait a moment. Our staff is pulling up the data right now. For an international event like this, they definitely have a Hall of Fame on their official website, right? Just a moment, folks. Serafina listened to the director in her earpiece. They found it, she announced shortly after. Everyone look at the big screen. The director instantly projected the freshly dug up data onto the massive stage screen. It was a web page. The official website of the Bocuse d'Or World Culinary Championship. On the roster of past winners, the first place name was genuinely Callahan, and the top 3 winners even had their photos attached. The photo next to Callahan's name showed someone wearing a pristine white chef's uniform. He looked very similar to the current Callahan. If the current Callahan was a young man, the guy in the photo looked like him in his late teens, wearing a towering chef's hat, oozing absolute swagger and authority. The data we found indicates the Bocuse d'Or World Culinary Championship is a global event, held once every 3 years. Callahan competed in the tournament 2 cycles ago, meaning 6 years ago. Back then, at the age of 19, Callahan became the youngest champion in the entire history of the Bocuse d'Or. Serafina read the information out loud. She felt like she was trapped in a fever dream. A man with such a god-tier status in the culinary world pretended to be a guy who burns scrambled eggs in front of his wife? This guy was hiding in the Mariana Trench. Elara was also watching the live stream. She saw the data too. Looking at the photo of Callahan in his chef's uniform, he looked so incredibly foreign to her. Was this really her husband? I just checked the official website too. It's 100% real. Oh my god, this is way too epic. When I hide my secret money, I act like a ninja, but my wife still finds it within a month. This bro hid his identity for 4 or 5 years. Could someone have watched the show and built a fake website overnight? Impossible. I just called the official hotline for the Bocuse d'Or. I verified it. It's legit. Quick, look at the other certificates underneath. Elara quickly snapped out of her trance. She hastily put down the Bocuse d'Or Championship certificate. She grabbed the rest of the stack and fanned them out across the coffee table. The screen displayed a dazzling array of credentials. National Grandmaster Chef Certification, 3-star Michelin Chef Certification, Culinary Olympics International Championship, first place, Michelin Special Guest Judge, Vice President of the National Culinary Association, Global Youth Chef Challenge Champion. This. A quick count revealed just the championship and honor certificates alone numbered 13, and the ultimate top-tier certifications that chefs would sell their souls for. There were nearly 10 of those. Elara was utterly shell-shocked. A 3-star Michelin chef, a National Grandmaster chef, and the Vice President of the National Culinary Association, a Michelin Special Guest Judge? What kind of alternate universe was this? Elara suddenly noticed. At the very bottom of the stack there were 2 documents of a completely different nature. She unfolded one of them. To her absolute horror, it was a national banquet invitation, it read. We hereby specially invite Mr. Callahan to serve as the executive chef for the national banquet. Gulp, Elara swallowed hard. The livestream chat froze in that exact second, as if time itself had been paused. Dead silence. Do any of you have thoughts on this? I've run out of adjectives to describe Callahan. This isn't just knowing how to cook. This guy is the literal god of the kitchen. Sweet mother of pearl, are all these certificates really his? I just background checked every single one. There are digital footprints online for all of them. It really is Callahan. I've been a chef for decades. How did I not know our association's vice president? I just checked too. The vice president really is Callahan. On stage, Serafina finally realized the gravity of the situation. This was a monumental VIP, and now he was a clueless guest on their reality show. Would this cause some massive international incident? A man with this many titles was absolutely not a normal civilian. He probably knew countless powerful elites. Just then, the director relayed another breaking update. Serafina physically shuddered. Everyone, please stay calm. We just received a phone call. It's from Editor-in-Chief Wang of the nation's top culinary magazine, National Chef. Editor Wang explicitly stated, Mr. Callahan was inducted into the National Chef Hall of Fame 7 years ago. He is one of the 12 Supreme Grandmasters in the Hall of Fame. Do you all understand what that implies? It implies that Mr. Callahan has made extraordinary historical contributions to our nation's culinary arts. He elevated cooking from a skill into high art. It's not just about cooking a tasty dish anymore. And the person at the dead center of this hurricane, the most shell-shocked of them all, was Elara. She never in her wildest dreams imagined that the husband she had loved and lived with for 3 years had such an absurd, terrifyingly powerful background. This was too scary. At this moment, Elara felt genuine anger bubbling up. What happened to trust between husband and wife? Something this massive, and he kept her in the dark for so long. And all just to avoid doing the dishes? For the past 3 years, he truly never cooked. On the rare occasion he did, he secretly made it for himself. Saying Elara wasn't furious would be a massive lie. Miss Elara, please don't get too upset. I feel like, since Mr. Callahan is this incredibly capable yet chose to stay hidden, he might have some unspeakable difficulties. Serafina tried to defuse the bomb, but honestly that excuse was flimsy. What unspeakable difficulty could a chef possibly have? She silently gathered up the certificates and neatly placed them back into the box. She sat in silence for a long time. Finally, she let out a long sigh. Deep down, her brain was already making excuses for Callahan. She wanted to believe he truly had some tragic, compelling reason. She was on the verge of exploding, but she decided to bottle it up. She needed to keep watching, to see what else Callahan was hiding from her. The old Elara firmly believed she knew Callahan 100%. Callahan couldn't possibly have any dark secrets. Even if he did, they were just tiny, harmless things. Like a secret stash of cash. Nothing serious. But now, things had escalated to code red. She walked back into the small bedroom, lifted the bedboard, and put the box back in its place. Maybe because she used too much force earlier, the bedboard felt incredibly heavy. After placing the box securely, as she was lowering the board, her arms gave out. The heavy board slammed down. Elara dodged quickly, but her finger still got clipped. A bloody gash appeared. The cut wasn't huge, but watching the bright red blood ooze out, Elara suddenly felt incredibly wronged. Married for 3 years, she never hid anything from Callahan. No dark secrets. Yet Callahan hid something this colossal, without uttering a single word. He hid it flawlessly. The more she thought about it, the angrier she got. She slumped back onto the sofa, and huge, grievance-filled tears started rolling down her cheeks. Plop! Plop! The netizens in the chat were panicking, unsure of what to do. Please don't cry. I believe Callahan has a tragic backstory. Maybe he got sick of the fame and the spotlight. Maybe he just wanted a quiet, normal life. Based on what Elara said earlier, Callahan treats her like a princess. Isn't that enough? I actually think if a stinky man can hide a secret this huge, he's definitely hiding other things too. The comments flew by like a blizzard. Sadly, Elara couldn't see them. She had closed the livestream app and was weeping silently on the sofa. Right at that very moment, "Wifey, I'm back! Got you 5 sweet pastries, fresh out of the oven, still piping hot! He's here! He's here! Callahan is back! I'm so nervous. What do we do? Is Elara gonna go Super Saiyan? If it were me, I'd nuke the house. This kind of man is total trash, won't even cook for his wife, unlike me. I've cooked for my husband for years. To the toxic girl above, I see you. It's fine when the man cooks, but a tragedy when the woman does?" The chat scrolled aggressively. Meanwhile, Callahan had suddenly returned, and a Category 5 hurricane was about to make landfall. Stepping inside, Callahan placed the pastries on the table, but didn't hear his wife greet him. He turned his head and saw Elara curled up on the sofa, her eyes brimming with tears. She was curled into a tight ball, hugging her knees, burying her face in them, like a tiny wounded kitten. This posture always made her feel safe. Callahan nearly jumped out of his skin. He rushed over frantically. "Wifey, what's wrong?" He plopped down beside her and pulled Elara into a tight hug. He quickly scanned the room like a hawk looking for threats. Nothing seemed out of place. Then he looked down at Elara and suddenly noticed she was injured. She hadn't even wiped the blood off her finger. It was just a scrape, but left uncleaned, it bled quite a bit. "Wifey, you're hurt!" Callahan panicked. He gently laid Elara back onto the sofa and dashed to the cabinets, rummaging wildly. Clang, bang, crash! Hold on, wifey! I swear the band-aids and the first aid kit were right here. Just hold on, I'll fix it in a sec. The more panicked you are, the more mistakes you make. Callahan searched frantically but couldn't find it. That's weird! Where did it go? He sprinted to another cabinet, yanked open the drawer, and tore through it. Elara had already stopped crying. She lifted her head and stared blankly at Callahan, watching him sweat bullets out of pure panic for her. The raging inferno in Elara's heart instantly died down by half. Found it! Callahan cheered triumphantly. He sprinted back to Elara, clutching the small first aid kit. He dropped to one knee. He scrambled through the kit and pulled out a hemostatic wipe. Callahan stayed kneeling on the floor, gently resting Elara's hand on his knee. He meticulously wiped away the blood with iodine. How could you be so careless? Does it hurt? Callahan looked up and asked. That gaze, overflowing with pure, unfiltered concern, instantly captured Elara's heart. She instinctively nodded, but then violently shook her head. Well, does it hurt or not? Callahan mumbled. You're a grown adult, but you still can't take care of yourself like a little girl. As he scolded her gently, the wound was mostly cleaned. He sprinkled a little medicinal powder on it, then peeled a band-aid and applied it flawlessly. He double-checked his work. Finally, he nodded in satisfaction. Handled it just in time. It'll be fine in a couple of days. You need to be more careful from now on, you hear me? Callahan lectured her like a worried dad. The millions of netizens in the livestream fell completely silent. Where was the Category 5 hurricane? This was premium-grade dog food. I'm choking on these lemons! From the moment Callahan walked in the door, to discovering Elara's injury, to the frantic rummaging, to the meticulous wound care and nagging, every single action was pure subconscious instinct. I've officially confirmed. This is a top-tier good man, agreed. No one knew if Elara was still planning to unleash her wrath. Host Serafina had also fallen silent. Watching the screen, she almost forgot she had a job to do. At the end of the day, she was a girl too, and a single one at that. What girl didn't want a handsome partner who babied them and cared for them this deeply? That was Callahan. Setting aside the insane secrets, Callahan was handsome. He had a great body. He was gentle. He knew how to care for people. His income was solid. He was practically flawless. Serafina was starting to get genuinely jealous. I'm so envious. On the screen, Elara didn't say a word. She just stared blankly at Callahan in front of her. The anger in her heart had completely evaporated. Thinking back over the past 3 years, Callahan really treated her like a fragile treasure, afraid she'd break if he dropped her, afraid she'd melt if he held her too tight. Whatever she wanted to eat, Callahan moved mountains to get it for her. Even though he didn't cook, Callahan handled all the other household chores flawlessly. Just like today, she wanted sweet pastries. Callahan didn't hesitate for a microsecond. Early in the morning, he drove across half the city just to buy her some pancakes, without a single word of complaint. He indulged Elara's every whimsical demand. Stop crying. Look at your face. It's all messy from crying. I'll go get a warm towel to wipe your face. Then we eat the sweet pastries. They're still piping hot, Callahan said softly. Then he started to stand up to grab a towel, but before he could fully stand, "Hubby!" Elara suddenly threw her arms around Callahan's neck and wailed at the top of her lungs. She cried a river, completely forgetting about the live stream. Millions of netizens watched as Callahan jumped in shock. Hearing Elara wailing, Callahan gently patted her back, soothing her. Shh, don't cry. It's just a sweet pastry. You don't need to be this touched. If you keep crying, your nose is gonna run. Elara, who was mid-wail, instantly burst into laughter at Callahan's stupid joke. In a flash, she was crying and laughing at the same time. You're so annoying! I'm finally having an emotional moment. Can't I just cry in peace? Elara pouted. You can, but right now it's pastry time. You can schedule another crying session later. Callahan chuckled. He jogged over and brought the pastries to her. On the sofa, Elara took a bite of the pastry. Honestly, it tasted fine. She wasn't a huge fan of sweets to begin with. Today, it was just a tactical excuse to get Callahan out of the house. But right now, this pastry was probably the sweetest thing she had ever eaten in her life. Hubby, you have a bite too. Elara completely forgot that millions of netizens were watching her plant a giant kiss right on Callahan's cheek. Watching the two of them happily munching on pastries on the sofa, the netizens were drowning in jealousy. See that? That's true love, baby. Wait, so is it over? Elara isn't going to interrogate him. Host Serafina watched the scene, unable to hide the envy in her own eyes. I never expected that since our show aired. Besides digging up dark secrets, we'd capture such a beautiful moment. This is probably the perfect love everyone dreams of. Shortly after, the pastries were devoured. Elara finally snapped back to reality. The house was rigged with cameras. Oh, right, and the disaster at the company. Her radiant mood instantly plummeted. But she tried not to show it in front of Callahan. Hubby, there's an emergency at the office. I need to head out for a bit. I probably won't be back for a few hours. You have to work on the weekend? A little hiccup happened with a project, so I need to go put out the fire. Ah, all right. Are you skipping lunch too? Hearing that, Elara was about to shake her head and say no, But suddenly, a spark ignited in her brain. Wait a minute, I want to eat something delicious. This was Elara's signature move. Every time she said this in the past, Callahan would magically have a feast waiting for her when she got back. This time would be no different, and this was the perfect way to test her theory. You got it! I'll set it up! Callahan patted his chest, guaranteeing it. Are you kidding? For a grandmaster chef of Callahan's caliber, whipping up a gourmet meal was easier than breathing. Only then did Elara happily leave the house. She drove straight to the broadcasting studio. Miss Elara, you're here. Are you going to hang out with us for a few hours before heading back? Serafina greeted her with a smile. When I said I had an emergency, it wasn't an excuse. I actually have an emergency, Elara said, her heart heavy. Serafina was stunned. She assumed Elara just made up an excuse to come to the studio so she could comfortably spy on her husband's secrets. I came here to tell you, the situation at my company is really bad. I might be stuck dealing with it for 2 days, I don't know. That's serious? Miss Elara, if you don't mind me asking, what exactly happened? This was just a polite inquiry. After all, this could involve Elara's personal secrets or corporate confidentiality. If she could share, great. If not, no pressure. Elara thought for a few seconds. Well, it's still early. I suppose it doesn't hurt to tell you. Through Elara's explanation, the netizens got the gist of it. Elara was a mid-level manager at her company. Not the CEO, but not a rookie either. Recently, they had a project they'd been prepping for 6 months. It was literally days away from launch, and the investors just bailed. The preliminary operations and prep had already burned through a massive amount of cash, manpower, and resources. The investors bailing at this stage meant catastrophic losses. Sure, they breached the contract and owed penalty fees, but they ran away. Finding them would take forever, and putting the project on ice wasn't an option. So many people were waiting for this launch. Plus, the contract with third-party vendors stated they had less than a week left. If they couldn't launch by then, Elara's company would be the one hit with breach of contract penalties. The fallout would be apocalyptic. Your company's survival comes first. Please go handle it, Miss Elara. You can still monitor the show's progress on your phone, Serafina said, her face completely serious. Even though she was a host and didn't understand the corporate world, just hearing Elara describe it made it clear this was a life-or-death crisis. And right at that exact moment, on the screen, Callahan was sitting on the sofa. His phone suddenly rang. Elara casually glanced at the screen, not paying much attention. Even though Callahan hid his chef identity, she didn't care anymore. As long as Callahan treated her right, that was enough. On the screen, Callahan picked up the phone. His expression instantly turned incredibly dark. Did you find out? He asked. A few seconds later, Callahan suddenly shot up from the sofa. What? My wife's project investors bailed! Are they playing games with my wife? What's the funding gap? Speak! Watching this unfold, the netizens in the livestream were flabbergasted. What is happening? Serafina asked, deeply confused. Miss Elara, did you tell your husband about the work crisis? Elara shook her head rapidly. No, I didn't. Serafina thought about it. Yeah, she was right. The livestream had been running non-stop since yesterday, unless she told him in the bedroom last night. But based on Elara's reaction, that definitely wasn't the case. And Callahan clearly just found out from the phone call. The question was, where on earth did he get this intel? Miss Elara, do you have any idea who is calling your husband? Serafina pressed. Elara shook her head again. She was just as baffled. How did someone leak her company's internal crisis to Callahan? This was way too bizarre. Could it be that besides being a master chef, your husband has another identity you know nothing about? Serafina suddenly voiced a terrifying theory. Elara froze. Her brain simply couldn't process that possibility right now. A man who could hide a god-tier culinary identity so flawlessly, hiding something else didn't seem too far-fetched. I have no idea anymore. Elara's mind was a tangled mess of yarn. She believed Callahan had his reasons for hiding, but now this reality show was peeling back his secrets layer by terrifying layer. Miss Elara, let's not panic. Let's keep watching. Delaying your office trip for a few more minutes won't hurt, right? Serafina suggested. Elara nodded in agreement. The chat was already experiencing a nuclear meltdown. Plot twist. I feel like I'm watching a spy thriller. How many secret identities does Callahan have? Being a Hall of Fame chef wasn't enough. This show is too legendary. I'd pay a subscription fee to watch this. On the screen, I was still chewing out whoever was on the phone. What do I even pay you people for? How could you let a screw-up this massive happen? Do you know how serious this is? It was incredibly serious. As the project lead, Elara would have to take the brunt of the blame. That's why she was panicking so hard. The investors ran, right? The gap is $500,000, right? Fill that gap for me immediately. Do I have to spoon-feed you how to do your jobs? My tone was that of a ruthless corporate overlord. Nothing like a normal, chill civilian. That's enough. I have to go cook dinner for my wife. After saying that, I slammed the phone down. The studio was dead silent. Serafina and Elara stared at each other. They both saw absolute unfiltered shock in each other's eyes. The live stream chat exploded. I freaking knew it! Callahan definitely has an ace up his sleeve. Anyone who casually refers to $500,000 as pocket change is not a normal dude. Wait, so Callahan can actually fix this crisis? Serafina turned to Elara. Miss Elara, It seems your husband is going to solve this problem for you. Elara obviously understood what my words meant, but she was still highly skeptical. Securing investors requires a massive, agonizing process. They have to audit the project, negotiate the fine print. The investors hold all the power. To be blunt, investors are the kings. They have the gold. They don't just throw money blindly. They audit repeatedly. They test your sincerity. Even if you pass the audit, they won't wire the money immediately. They'll drag it out on purpose. Elara had no clue who I just called. But even if I pulled strings to find investors, they still had to go through that grueling process. Then what do you think the odds are that your husband can actually help? The host pressed. Odds? Elara thought about it. Maybe 30%. Right at that moment, her phone violently buzzed. It's my project department. I need to take this. Elara hit the answer button. Don't panic. I'm on my way to the office right now. I'll figure out a way to get the funding. She assumed the project team was calling to rush her. To her utter shock, a wildly ecstatic voice screamed from the other end. Director Elara, you don't need to. 3 massive investment firms just contacted us out of nowhere. They each want to invest 1 million. That's 3 million total. Elara's entire brain short-circuited. She mechanically turned her head to stare at the giant screen. On the screen, I was making another phone call. Yeah, send some more fresh veggies over. Elara didn't give a damn about what vegetables I wanted. She only wanted to know what the hell that previous phone call was, because she had her phone on speaker. The project department's ecstatic screams echoed throughout the entire studio. The millions of viewers in the live stream were completely stunned. Holy mother of... Did he actually pull that off? That was way too fast. 3 million secured in literal minutes. How terrifyingly powerful are his connections? I don't buy it. It has to be a coincidence. Maybe the investors just happened to spot the project? The timing is way too convenient. The person from the project department asked cautiously. Director Elara, are you still there? Elara finally snapped out of her coma. You are incredible, Director. We begged for that $500,000 investment for months, and you casually pulled in 3 million in one shot. How on earth did you do it? Elara was completely lost in the sauce. Why do you think I was the one who pulled the investors? Because when they called, the very first thing they asked was if this was your project. I got the feeling they didn't even care about the project specs. They were literally just throwing money at us because your name was on it. Elara was frozen. She slowly turned her head to look at me on the screen, her eyes incredibly complex. Even though she didn't want to believe it, this was highly likely the result of my single phone call. Director Elara, a 4th firm just called. They want to throw in another $1 million. They are demanding we sign the contracts and launch the project immediately. Elara gritted her teeth. Lock the project down first. No matter what, launching the project is the top priority. Oh right, text me the names of those investment firms. Understood, Director. Oh wait, a 5th firm is calling. I gotta hang up. I'll text you the list in a sec. The call ended. Elara was trembling with shock. In a matter of minutes, the investment pool had mutated from a $500,000 gap to a $5 million flood. This is way too unnatural. It has to be Callahan's doing. But how can one phone call wield this kind of apocalyptic power? Elara's inner monologue was screaming. On stage, Serafina was also losing her mind. This episode had completely derailed from reality. Serafina, could you help me run a background check on these companies? Elara held up her phone, displaying the list of firms. We can check the corporate registry, but a lot of companies hide their actual controlling shareholders behind shell entities. Serafina said, calling up their resident financial expert, Thaddeus. Thaddeus pushed up his glasses. Miss Elara, if your husband truly has ties to these companies, you won't find it on a public registry. Shadow connections aren't documented for the public, Elara insisted. Just check anyway, please. Serafina introduced him. This is our guest expert from the Financial News Network, Mr. Thaddeus. He's the ultimate bloodhound when it comes to corporate data. Just then, Thaddeus suddenly froze mid-typing. He yelled in excitement. I found something! Callahan Holdings! Everyone's eyes instantly locked onto Thaddeus like sniper lasers. The studio camera zoomed in for a dramatic close-up. Thaddeus pushed up his glasses again. These firms are all highly aggressive, professional venture capital firms. They are massive players domestically. Among them, Crimson Redwood Capital and Global Silver Investments both list a Xu Guoqiang as their legal representative. The other 3 firms are legally represented by Wu Lei, Xing Yunluo, and Jia Wangliang. Miss Elara, do any of these 4 names ring a bell? Elara shook her head blankly. She had never heard of these people in her entire life, but she definitely knew Crimson Redwood Capital. That was the mega firm that invested in TikTok. They normally wouldn't even spit in the direction of a tiny company like hers. The livestream chat went nuclear. Crimson Redwood Capital investing in a small project? That's insanely suspicious. Could it really be Callahan pulling the strings? If he has this kind of godlike power, why is he cooped up at home writing web novels? Don't forget the man is a 3-star Michelin and National Banquet executive chef. Making bank is probably a joke to him. Knowing a few Wall Street titans is probably effortless for him. To Crimson Redwood, $1 million isn't even a rounding error. But there was still no hard proof. After all, nobody knew these shadowy financial titans personally, and there was no way to confirm if I was the puppet master. Serafina couldn't hold back. Mr. Thaddeus, can you dig deeper? This feeling of the truth being inches away but out of reach was literal torture. Thaddeus frowned deeply. 5 venture capital titans simultaneously swarming a tiny project. It was violently abnormal. And the most terrifying part? It all happened seconds after I made a phone call. Even though it sounded like a sci-fi movie, it was impossible not to connect the dots back to me. Elara was now completely lost in the sauce. The investment crisis was magically solved, but her heart was in absolute turmoil. Tell you what, Thaddeus suddenly said. I have a friend who is basically a god in the investment world. Information that isn't on public registries, he can probably dig up. Hearing that he was calling in a favor to verify the truth, the netizens screamed in excitement. Serafina said politely, Then we'll have to trouble you, Mr. Thaddeus. Thaddeus waved his hand dismissively, glancing at the screen where I was just chilling, waiting for groceries. He wasn't just doing this for the show. His own curiosity was eating him alive. Who the hell was this chef? If the wild theories were true, this chef was a literal god walking among men. No trouble at all. I'll call him right now. Thaddeus dialed the number directly and slapped it on speakerphone. Old Thaddeus, what brings you to my neck of the woods? I'm filming a show right now and hit a brick wall. Need a massive favor. Wow, Thaddeus asking for help? It must be snowing in hell. Shoot, what do you need? Run a deep background check on Crimson Redwood Capital, Global Silver Investments, and a few others. I need to know who pulls their strings. The person on the other end suddenly went dead silent for several seconds. When he spoke again, his tone was dead serious. Why are you digging into them? Just professional curiosity. I have a hunch they're secretly connected. You don't need to dig. They are connected. They look like independent titans on paper, but they are actually all subsidiary branches of the same ultimate parent corporation. Subsidiaries? Thaddeus's voice cracked in shock. A leviathan like Crimson Redwood Capital was just a branch. They all operate under a ghost conglomerate called Callahan Holdings. This conglomerate almost never shows its face in public. Callahan Holdings? The livestream chat instantly detonated. If the company is named after him, then everything makes sense. But this identity is too freaking terrifying. Thaddeus's breathing grew ragged. How much do you know about Callahan Holdings? Very little. They operate in the shadows. Oh wait, I heard a rumor that their legal CEO is named what? Thaddeus, Serafina, Elara, and millions of netizens synchronized their breathing. Let me think. Right. The CEO shares the name of the company. Carl's is Callahan Callahan? Yeah, that's the name. The absolute apex predator of the domestic investment world. Crimson Redwood Capital is just one of his toys. Everyone turned to look at the screen. I was still just sitting there, waiting for my food. It was physically impossible to connect that chill dude with an apex corporate predator. Are you absolutely certain? Pretty sure. Do you know anything else about this Callahan guy? Nothing. Only that he is a phantom, rarely ever seen. He's a completely hands-off boss. But his power is absolute. That wasn't just powerful, that was reality-bending. After Thaddeus hung up the phone, he stood there paralyzed. He never imagined the rabbit hole went this deep. So the reason those firms all invested simultaneously was because they all answered to the exact same boss. The second the phone call ended, all the subsidiaries panicked and scrambled to execute the order. They didn't even look at the project. They just threw cash at it. Sure, it was only $1 million each. But 5 firms meant $5 million instantly. Thaddeus turned to Elara, his voice trembling. Miss Elara, although we can't 100% legally verify that this Callahan is your husband, the probability is astronomical. Who exactly is your husband? As a financial expert, he knew better than anyone just how terrifying the power of a financial cartel like that was. This was an untouchable elite sitting at the very top of the food chain. Elara was in full panic mode now, married for 3 years, together for over 4. She had never, ever caught a single whisper of this. She mumbled, could it just be a massive coincidence? Because so far, there's no photograph or hard evidence proving that CEO Callahan is my husband. The livestream chat was an absolute war zone. There is zero chance this is a coincidence. This is so wildly romantic. You can't even find his footprint online. The investment firms reacted like they were given a royal decree. Just then, the production team suddenly escorted a stunning girl onto the stage. Serafina instantly recognized her. Calliope, what are you doing here? From the familiarity, it was obvious they were close. I've been glued to the live stream. The girl glanced at my face on the big screen. I'm just as dying to know his true identity as the rest of you. Maybe I can crack this case. Serafina's eyes lit up like floodlights. This girl, Calliope, was the only daughter of the TV station's president. She came from extreme wealth, and rumors said her family's background was unfathomably deep. After the director got her seated, Calliope cut straight to the chase. My family has deep ties with the military. I can access high-level classified dossiers on anyone. Now that was true power. Within the country's borders, no matter who you were or what you did, the military databases had a flawless record of you. One phone call was all it took. If she can use her connections to unmask Callahan's true identity, that would be legendary. Quick, make the call. Is this man's ultimate secret finally about to be dragged into the light? A netizen named Liu Jia rubbed his hands in man excitement. Just thinking about it gives me an adrenaline rush. This show had completely derailed from its original concept. Initially, the show was just meant to expose harmless little secrets between couples, like secret cash stashes, to get some laughs. At most, maybe catch a cheating spouse. But now, because of Callahan's existence, the show's popularity had shattered the stratosphere. Hold on to your hats, everyone. I'm making the call right now. Callahan pulled out her phone and dialed a number. She purposely put it on speaker. The call connected instantly. Run a background check for me. Name is Callahan. Why the sudden background check? Got your eye on a boy? A young man's voice came through the speaker. He sounded relaxed, teasing her. No! Callahan quickly denied it. You obviously haven't been on the internet today. Otherwise you wouldn't be asking that. Just run the name for me, please. This shouldn't be hard for you, right? She spoke very cautiously. She didn't reveal the other party's identity, nor did she use any titles. Just a simple request for a favor. Relax. With my security clearance, looking up a civilian is a walk in the park. Even if he's classified special forces, I can pull his file. Give me a minute. With that, he hung up. The viewers in the live stream immediately caught the underlying flex. Calliope's background is made of titanium. She casually drops military intelligence favors. Looks like Callahan has nowhere left to hide. Thaddeus didn't even dare to breathe too loudly. He knew damn well that the guy Calliope just spoke to was an absolute heavyweight. To have the authority to pull special forces dossiers. That was a realm Thaddeus couldn't even dream of touching, so he smartly chose to keep his mouth shut. Host Serafina was also highly professional. She didn't pry. She just waited quietly for the verdict. Only Elara stared at the screen with incredibly complicated emotions. Callahan was currently in the kitchen prepping a fish, completely oblivious to the apocalyptic storm heading his way. Looking at the familiar ingredients on the counter, Elara suddenly had an epiphany. I know what dish he's making, Serafina asked curiously. You know? Elara nodded. Yeah, in the past, whenever I said I wanted something good, I'd come home to this exact dish. He always claimed he bought it from a fancy restaurant. Now I know he made it himself. Looks like he's prepping a fish. Elara's eyes sparkled. Exactly. I remember him telling me. The dish is called squirrel mandarin fish. It's my absolute favorite. Offstage, the lighting guy Barnaby heard this and practically leaped out of his chair. National banquet. Another national banquet dish. The production crew was stunned. The director had lightning-fast reflexes. He immediately cut the camera and brought Barnaby back on stage to analyze. Barnaby yelled excitedly, Squirrel fish isn't inherently impossible, but authentic squirrel mandarin fish is a legendary national banquet staple. Looking at his ingredient prep and hearing what Miss Elara just said, he was 100% certain. If it were anyone else, Barnaby might have doubts. But who was Callahan? He was a living myth in the culinary world, a special guest executive chef for the national banquet. Whipping up a national banquet dish was basically his Tuesday routine. Barnaby couldn't help but ask, Miss Elara, the dishes your husband usually cooks for you, do you remember the names of any others? Elara tilted her head, thinking. There was osmanthus duck, scallion oil chicken, walnut black mushrooms, shrimp roe winter bamboo shoots, oil-braised cucumber dragons, 5-spice smoked fish. As she rattled off the names, Barnaby's eyes bulged wider and wider. That's all I can remember right now. There are others, but I forgot the names. Elara finished, then asked curiously, Barnaby, do you recognize these dishes? Barnaby nodded like a broken bobblehead. He looked at Elara with pure, unadulterated envy. More than half of those are national banquet exclusives. It seems your husband is very traditional. Hardly any Western food. Basically, you've eaten your way through the entire national banquet menu. Barnaby was drowning in jealousy. A regular civilian getting to eat national banquet feasts on the daily? Cooked by her husband's own hands? What kind of fairy tale treatment was this? The livestream chat exploded again. What is going on? Callahan hid his identity, sure, but he secretly fed his wife the entire national banquet menu. This man is so aggressively romantic. Why can't I find a man like this? Elara listened in a daze. She had no idea that the meals she casually praised were actually world-class masterpieces. They were incredibly delicious, yes, but she always thought I just picked them up from a pricey restaurant. To think he painstakingly made them all himself. In that moment, Elara's heart melted into a puddle of warmth. It didn't matter what Callahan was hiding anymore. Right at that very moment, Calliope's phone rang loudly. The entire studio and millions of viewers instantly fell dead silent. My ultimate secret was about to be dragged into the light. The second the call connected, Calliope impatiently asked, Did you find it? A deep male voice echoed from the phone. I found it. Every single viewer held their breath. They were seconds away from learning my true, godlike identity. Why did he hide his identity? Who knows? Billionaires love playing these weird games. Amidst the suffocating anticipation, the man on the phone suddenly burst into laughter. This Callahan guy is just a completely average dude. I thought you were having me run a trace on some shadowy VIP. Calliope's face was a giant question mark. Average dude? Then how do you explain Callahan Holdings? Well, I guess he's not completely average, the man amended. His file says he did some advanced studies at the International Finance Academy, so he's got some brains. The International Finance Academy was an elite institution. It birthed countless financial titans. Anyone who could get in there for advanced studies was easily worth a few million at least. All right, thanks! Calliope hung up the phone. Host Serafina finally opened her mouth to speak. Ladies and gentlemen of the audience, I have a theory. Callahan might have met some obscenely wealthy friends at the academy, and they just let him put his name on the paperwork as the legal representative. In reality, there are plenty of companies where the legal CEO and the actual mastermind running things are two completely different people. So Serafina's theory actually holds some water. Upon realizing that Callahan was merely a figurehead for Callahan Holdings, and not the actual corporate overlord pulling the strings, the audience was visibly disappointed. So after all that hype, Callahan Holdings doesn't even belong to Callahan. The host has a point. The legal rep isn't necessarily the one holding the crown. With a massive empire like Callahan Holdings, the real brains behind it are probably alumni from the Finance Academy. Callahan is just a glorified placeholder. Phew, so with that logic, he really just made a phone call to a rich buddy. But wait, listening to the tone of that phone call, he didn't sound like he was talking to a buddy. The audience was momentarily stumped. But the classified military data was sitting right in front of their eyes, proving that he was, indeed, not the ultimate boss of Callahan Holdings. Honestly, this is for the best. If he really was the boss of Callahan Holdings, that would just be way too terrifying. Although slightly disappointed, deep down the audience didn't actually want to believe that Callahan was the true emperor of Callahan Holdings. This contradictory mindset is totally normal. When you see an average Joe suddenly become vastly superior to yourself in every conceivable way, your inner ego naturally puts up a little resistance. The camera cut back to me preparing the second dish. My supernatural knife skills and absolute mastery over the ingredients once again left everyone completely mesmerized. Scrub-a-dub-dub! Chop-chop left, chop-chop right. I was humming a little tune, fiddling with a plump, majestic, black-feathered, silky chicken. My goofy demeanor made the live stream audience burst into laughter. Having a husband like this would be pure bliss. You'd be laughing every single day. That's a silky chicken, right? Making soup with that is incredibly nourishing. While everyone was busy debating poultry, guest Calliope quietly slipped away from the host's desk, leaving only Barnaby and Serafina. Barnaby originally thought I was just making a simple chicken soup, but the moment I sliced open the chicken's belly, he violently shuddered. The internal organs of this chicken were completely pitch black too. That's an Indonesian obsidian chicken. What's an Indonesian obsidian chicken? Isn't this just a regular black silky chicken? Why are the insides black? It's definitely contaminated. You can't eat that! Serafina also looked thoroughly confused. She handed the microphone to Barnaby so he could explain. The Indonesian obsidian chicken is literally the most expensive poultry on planet Earth. Not only is the exterior black, even the internal organs are a metallic pitch black color, Barnaby explained. This kind of black isn't just a flat dark color. It's a unique black with a metallic iridescent sheen. I saw one once when I was a private chef for a billionaire. It's ridiculously absurdly expensive, he recalled. The meat on that bird is as tender as silken tofu, and the nutritional value is off the charts. The livestream chat instantly detonated. I just Googled it. This thing is basically the Lamborghini of the poultry world. How expensive are we talking here? Chef Barnaby, don't leave us hanging. Barnaby sighed with deep emotion. This kind of chicken is basically a plaything for the ultra-rich. I heard a single live one costs around $6 million. Taking one bite is the equivalent of chewing on a crisp $10,000 bill. The comment section went nuclear. Where on earth did Callahan get the cash to buy a chicken this expensive? Did he hoard a massive secret stash of money? Meanwhile, I was at home, prepping the second dish. With surgical precision, I sliced a piece of pink pork into wafer-thin sheets, then diced it into tiny, pomegranate seed-sized cubes. My knife work was as smooth as flowing water. One look and you knew it was pure professional mastery. He's making Yangzhou lion's head meatballs, Barnaby praised in awe. Truly worthy of a national banquet executive chef. Those knife skills are unparalleled. Seeing this, Serafina hurriedly pressed him. Chef Barnaby, if Callahan bought this Indonesian obsidian chicken himself, doesn't that prove he's hoarding a massive secret fund? Elara was completely shell-shocked. I literally gave him $200 for groceries today. Where did he pull $6 million from to buy a designer chicken? The livestream boiled over again. Could Callahan be a stealthy billionaire? Even someone worth hundreds of millions might wince at eating a chicken this pricey. His wife is working her tail off at the office, and he's secretly hoarding millions and hiding it from her. Men really are unreliable trash. The truth is finally coming to light. Callahan isn't just a national-level special host chef. He's also playing the stock market like a fiddle. Even if he isn't the true boss of Callahan Holdings, he definitely made a massive fortune off them. Elara was now panicking, completely at a loss for what to do. Watching the situation spiral out of control, she even considered screaming for the show to cut the cameras. Not for any selfish reason, but because she couldn't bear to watch the internet drag my name through the mud. Hold on a second. I have something to say. A middle-aged man suddenly stood up from the VIP audience section. One look and you could tell he was a highly successful businessman. Host Serafina gasped in surprise. Mr. Sterling, you'd like to speak? This was none other than the mega-rich sponsor of the Decoding Your Better Half show, a big-shot CEO worth tens of millions. For the past 2 episodes, he had just been a quiet spectator. I've actually eaten this type of chicken before. Mr. Sterling walked onto the stage and said, "The price isn't that astronomically absurd. It's about $30,000 to $40,000 for one." Turns out he had been observing silently this whole time. At first, he also thought it was just a regular black chicken. Then he heard Chef Barnaby mention the Indonesian obsidian chicken. As a boss who frequently attended high-end elite banquets, he knew the difference between the pet version and the meat version. He patiently explained, the Indonesian obsidian chicken comes in 2 categories. One is bred strictly as an ornamental pet for the filthy rich, the other is raised specifically for consumption. Callahan is using the meat bird. The market price is around 30,000 to 40,000. If you catch a good sale, you can bag one for 20,000. Serafina had a sudden realization. Thank you for the fun fact, Mr. Sterling. But honestly, even if it's only $20,000, that still vastly exceeds Callahan's $200 grocery budget. The chat section exploded again. This plot twist has more curves than a mountain road. He definitely has a secret stash, but it's probably just in the millions, not billions. Having a few million is totally normal, right? A national chef can easily make tens of thousands just cooking a single meal. You are severely underestimating a national chef. Try starting at $100,000 minimum. Rich people value spiritual and culinary experiences the most. Dropping $100,000 to have a national chef cook for them is literally pocket change. So Callahan hoarding a few $100,000 in a secret fund is 100% logical. Serafina smiled and said, Miss Elara, your husband treats you so incredibly well. Whatever you crave, he makes it happen. In her eyes, a man hiding a little bit of pocket money was no big deal. Didn't she secretly stash a few $1,000s behind her own husband's back? Not to mention, the guy was a literal national chef. Having a high income was par for the course. A sweet, sugary smile bloomed on Elara's face. He really has always treated me this well. I had already started heating up the wok. Right at that moment, I abruptly set down the spatula to answer my phone. My face instantly shifted into a mask of pure seriousness. What? We got spotted! How the hell are you people doing your jobs? I roared into the phone. Pouring all the investments in at once is obviously suspicious. Have you people never heard of diversified investing? This hyper-aggressive, domineering tone sent the chat into another frenzy, suddenly shifting into tyrant CEO mode. He looks so hot when he's yelling at people. Miss Elara is definitely not someone to mess with. They must be talking about the investment deal. Those corporate suits are way too rigid. After hanging up, I opened WeChat again. The chicken you delivered today was wrong. I specifically asked for a standard black silky chicken. These words made the viewer's eyes light up. So there was a hidden plot twist after all. I originally ordered a normal silky chicken. The person on the other end immediately started apologizing profusely. I am so sorry, Mr. Callahan. We accidentally mixed up the standard silky with the Indonesian obsidian meat bird. Have you already used it? We will send a replacement immediately. A panicked female voice echoed from the phone. Wow, it's so rare to see customer service this good nowadays. It was clearly the store's screw-up, but usually they'd make the consumer swallow the cost. Last time I withdrew money and the ATM gave me an extra 1,000. I didn't even notice. But the bank agents were knocking on my door within the hour to demand it back. But when the ATM shorted me money, it took 2 whole days of running around to fix it. I give this store's service a 10/10, but that poor delivery girl is probably gonna get her wages docked. Press F to pay respects. The audience debated passionately, everyone dying to know how I would respond. They saw me furrow my brows, looking quite displeased as I said, whatever, I'll just reluctantly use this chicken. Make sure you pay attention next time. Thank you so much, Mr. Callahan. I promise it will never happen again. The voice on the other end sounded like she had just been pardoned from execution. This entire scene left the show's crew and the livestream audience utterly bewildered. That was it? He's going to reluctantly use it? Does he honestly have no idea how expensive that Indonesian obsidian chicken is? A chicken worth 20 grand, and he's reluctantly using it? He's a national chef. There's no way he doesn't know the market price. Barnaby, who had been quiet, chimed in to explain. Callahan isn't just pretending to be annoyed. National banquets have incredibly strict standards for ingredients. If a mix-up like this happened in a real national banquet kitchen, we would completely halt production and wait for the correct silky chicken to arrive. Using non-native ingredients completely alters the flavor profile. Chefs are just that ruthlessly demanding when it comes to ingredients. It's like trying to make braised pork belly using tofu. The taste would be fundamentally wrong. Knowledge unlocked. My dad is a chef too. He's an absolute nightmare when grocery shopping. Is your dad a national chef too? Half an hour of intense cooking later, just in time for Elara's off-work hours, a table completely overflowing with visually stunning, mouth-watering dishes was ready. Mao-style braised pork belly, lion's head meatballs, 3 treasure duck in a clay pot and fresh obsidian chicken soup, all legendary national banquet dishes. Serafina rattled off the names like an encyclopedia. No wonder people say marrying a chef is the ultimate jackpot. Eating gourmet masterpieces every day, who wouldn't be happy? Elara scratched her head, looking a bit sheepish. As for my cooking skills, well, Callahan eats whatever I make. He's never complained once. Serafina's eyes sparkled. It seems Callahan truly loves you with all his heart. No. Elara laughed and waved her hands. He's just too lazy to cook. As long as it isn't literally toxic, he'll eat it. She didn't dare brag too much. As an elite corporate survivor, she knew all too well that the higher you're praised, the harder you fall. All right then. The feast is ready at home. Miss Elara, hurry back and enjoy your national banquet dinner. Serafina thoughtfully steered the conversation. The livestream's engagement was miraculously high today. The viewer count smashed through the 3 million mark. Not only did they clear up the rumors about my identity, but the audience also got a front row seat to a national executive chef in action. Elara suddenly proposed an idea. Why don't you come with me? We can just say you're a new colleague. Serafina's eyes lit up like fireworks. Really? Can I actually? Getting to eat a home-cooked meal prepared by a national chef? That was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, Elara said generously. Of course! Serafina flashed a sweet smile at the camera. Viewers at home, I'm going to go crash a dinner party. Elara couldn't help but laugh. Let's go. I guarantee you'll taste true national banquet perfection. The two women chatted and laughed as they headed toward the house. The comment section was drowning in pure envy. After all, this show was all about married life. Compared to reality shows with plastic pop stars, this hit the sweet spot for married couples perfectly. In the taxi, Elara and Serafina were also watching the live stream on their phones. Seeing me close my eyes and deeply inhale the aroma of my liquor, Serafina asked curiously, Miss Elara, does Callahan rarely drink at home? Elara stared at the screen and replied, I usually ban him from drinking, because the second he gets drunk, he starts spewing absolute nonsense. The memory of the last time I got drunk was still fresh in her mind. What kind of nonsense does he say? Serafina asked with a giggle. He starts claiming the president is his little lackey, saying he pours tea for him. He also calls himself a living medical god, the richest man in the world, stuff like that. Thinking about my goofy drunk antics, Elara couldn't help but laugh. Most people, when drunk, hallucinate they are Superman. But Callahan? He straight up brags that he's the richest man on the planet. Callahan is quite the character. Serafina covered her mouth, giggling. Of course, she didn't believe a word of those drunken ramblings. If your lazy neighbor who lounges around all day suddenly claimed to be the richest man on earth, would you buy it? He was bragging without writing a script. First, movie plots are all fake anyway. In reality, Callahan might be comfortably wealthy, but he was light years away from being the richest man in the world. The world of the ultra-rich is completely beyond ordinary imagination. Along the way, the highly sociable Serafina and Elara hit it off perfectly. They grew quite close. Through their chat, Serafina also gathered a lot of intel about me. 10 minutes later, the taxi pulled up to the apartment complex gates. Elara's phone suddenly rang. Wifey, when are you coming back? The food from the restaurant just arrived. On the other end of the line, I sounded like I was pacing frantically. I had timed the cooking perfectly to match her commute. If the food sat for too long, the optimal flavor profile would be ruined. Plus, smelling the intoxicating aroma of the Ergo 2 liquor, the little booze demon in my stomach was practically clawing its way out. I'm already at the complex gates. Elara deliberately teased me. How come I didn't see the delivery guy? My heart skipped a beat. They came in plain clothes. It's totally normal that you didn't spot them. Just hurry up and come eat. After hanging up, I dashed out of the living room like a madman. What is Callahan doing? Is he going to hire a random actor to play the delivery guy? Just to avoid future cooking duties. The kitchen god has pretended to be a culinary disaster for years. The viewers were rolling on the floor laughing. Knowing someone else's juicy little secrets, it was a deeply satisfying feeling. Elara hung up the phone and let out a cold snort. She grabbed Serafina and power-walked toward the house. She was determined to beat me to the door, to see exactly what kind of circus trick I was pulling. Usually, walking from the gates to the house took 5 minutes. Elara shifted into turbo gear and made it in 2. She imagined me running around in a sweaty panic. She slammed the door open, only to see me lounging casually on the sofa, watching TV. I looked up with a perfectly crafted expression of surprise. Wifey? Didn't you say you were at the gates? How did you get up here so fast? Spotting Serafina standing behind Elara, I quickly stood up to grab an extra glass and pour some drinks. You brought a friend over? Why didn't you give me a heads up? It's terrible manners not to be prepared. I'm dying of laughter! The live stream was an absolute comedy club. The viewers saw exactly what happened in 4K resolution. In those brief 2 minutes, I had sprinted downstairs, bought a massive stack of plastic takeout containers, and aggressively scraped a tiny portion of every dish into them, creating a flawless illusion of restaurant delivery. The livestream chat was moving at warp speed. His reaction time is god tier. That facial expression management in the final second? Oscar-worthy. Look at Callahan's forehead. He's definitely sweating bullets. He's totally panicking inside. Elara dropped her bag, looking at me with a deeply amused smirk. What? Did my sudden return give you a heart attack? She sat at the dining table, sniffing the heavenly aroma, and gasped in mock surprise. Wow, the takeout today looks incredible. Just look at this presentation. How about we just order takeout for every meal from now on? No, wifey! I instantly started panicking. Takeout is fine once in a while, but it's expensive and totally unhealthy. It could never compare to your nutritious, delicious cooking. Are you kidding me? If we ordered takeout every single day, my cover as a master chef would be blown into orbit, and then I'd be permanently chained to the stove. Cooking occasionally is romantic. Cooking every single day is a prison sentence. It's like turning your hobby into your day job. No matter how much you love it, you'll eventually hate it. I'm just joking. Seeing her objective achieved, Elara smiled and waved her hand. Serafina, come sit down. You've been busy all day, it's time to eat. Beside her, Serafina was biting her lip to keep from laughing. She put on a polite face and sat down. Thank you, Elara. I finally noticed Serafina's slightly awkward expression. And this is? My new colleague at the company, Serafina. She helped me out a ton today. Elara quickly covered her tracks. We were negotiating a project together today, so I invited her over for dinner. My expression instantly softened. Ah, I see. Thanks for taking care of my Elara at the office. You both must be starving. Let's dig in. After all that hard work, it's finally time to eat. I had kept all the dishes covered with lids, so not a single wisp of heat or aroma had escaped. When I lifted the lids, 9 breathtaking, flawlessly plated dishes were revealed. Serafina's eyes practically turned into saucers, truly worthy of a national banquet chef. The plating was aggressively elegant. Her stomach, which hadn't even been hungry, instantly started growling. I held my liquor glass in one hand and chopsticks in the other. Chow time! Let's eat! The three of us immediately dove in, focusing entirely on inhaling the food. Oh my God! Serafina suddenly looked up and shrieked. She scared the living daylights out of the other two who were mid-chew. Seeing us staring at her in bewilderment, Serafina embarrassedly explained, It's just too delicious. I have never tasted anything this incredible in my entire life. You nearly gave me a heart attack. I thought you found a bug in your food or something. Elara and I ate food of this caliber on the regular, so we were completely desensitized to it. But for Serafina, who was tasting a national banquet for the first time, it was a religious experience. The flavor profile drop-kicked her taste buds. It was violently addictive. This restaurant really is top tier, I chimed in smoothly. Elara and I order from them all the time. Elara played along flawlessly. I'll take you to the actual restaurant next time. I bet it tastes even better fresh out of their kitchen. My face stiffened for a microsecond, but I recovered instantly. Absolutely. We'll hit up the restaurant next time. Meanwhile, my brain was spinning. Go to the restaurant! I'd figure out a way to fake that when the time comes. To celebrate my wife's project successfully winning the bid, I finally found a bulletproof excuse to drink. I raised my glass. With the project secured, not only would Elara get a fat bonus check, but her status in the company would skyrocket. She might even get promoted to manager next. Yes, let's celebrate! Serafina hurriedly reached for her cup, but in her flustered excitement she knocked the earthy yellow ceramic cup off the table. It smashed onto the floor, shattering into several pieces. Oh my God, I'm so sorry! I'm so sorry! Serafina panicked and shot out of her chair. She frantically looked around for a broom to sweep it up. Elara quickly reassured her. It's fine. It's just a cup. Hubby, go grab a new one from the cabinet. I stood up to clean up the ceramic casualties. I pulled a new cup from the cabinet. This time it was a pure white ceramic cup. Intricately carved onto it was an incredibly lifelike crimson dragon. I am so sorry. Where did you buy that cup? I'll buy 2 replacements and bring them over next time. Serafina felt incredibly guilty. I chuckled inwardly. You couldn't just buy that cup anywhere. I smoothed things over. Don't worry about it. It was just cheap street market junk, $1 a pop. This new one is the expensive one. Cost me $5 whole. Looking at the premium ergotu spilled all over the floor, my heart bled. I came to mooch a meal and broke your cup. I'm so embarrassed. Seeing how genuinely unbothered they were, Serafina didn't push the issue. Elara glared at the remains of the earthy yellow cup with disdain. It's a good thing that ugly mug broke. I've always hated looking at it anyway. My hand, which was holding the dustpan, froze mid-air. I grumbled internally. Ugly? That cup was an absolute masterpiece. Back at the studio set, Serafina had temporarily left and was replaced by a new host, Penelope. You can tell a lot from a broken cup. Both Callahan and Elara are very easygoing people. And speaking of dining etiquette, one should always maintain hygiene at the table. You shouldn't dig around in the communal dishes with your chopsticks. This host is so boring. Who wrote the rulebook on how to eat in your own house? We're here to watch a reality show, not listen to your etiquette lecture. Bring Serafina back. The audience was highly annoyed. The chat was flooded with complaints. The director frantically signaled Penelope to step down, preparing to call Serafina back. Right at that moment, a staff member bravely volunteered. Director, I'm an amateur collector in my spare time. That earthy yellow cup, it might be something extraordinary. Hearing this, the viewers in the live stream immediately started demanding answers. How extraordinary are we talking? Don't tell me it's an antique. If it was actually valuable, who would use it to drink cheap booze? Tell us, spill the tea! The director glanced at the surging chat. He decided to let the staff member take a shot. It was better than letting the audience riot. The staff member nervously stepped onto the host stage. He was a middle-aged man, usually in charge of adjusting camera clarity, so he had seen the intricate details of the cup perfectly. Ladies and gentlemen, the earthy yellow cup you just saw. I highly suspect it's an Emperor's Heritage porcelain cup, issued by the state back in 1952. Due to its unique crafting technique and master designer, it has always been a holy grail for elite collectors. The live stream exploded instantly. Holy crap! That dirt yuggly cup is a collector's item? First time I'm hearing the state-issued cups. I thought they only issued commemorative coins. You lack culture, bro. Every niche hobby has its own deep lore. It's over. It's so over. Serafina just caused a massive disaster. The point isn't the cup itself. It's what the cup represents. Most of the audience still didn't buy it, because the cup just looked way too aggressively ordinary. With its earthy yellow exterior, if you put it at a flea market, it would sell for $10 max. The staff member looked at the shattered pieces on the screen with visible heartache. He continued explaining. The true soul of the Emperor's Heritage cup is on the inside. Did you see those glittering golden specks? That is pure, authentic gold. And the bottom of the cup is stamped with the national flag of the Dragon Kingdom. The crafting process is insanely complex. It turned out the cup was painstakingly handcrafted, fired layer by layer, a humble exterior, hiding a magnificent interior, perfectly embodying the traditional Dragon Kingdom philosophy of gold and jade within, knowledge leveled up. What a tragic end for such a masterpiece. Wait a minute. Why is Callahan's family using such a priceless artifact as a casual shot glass? No normal person would use museum-grade porcelain for Tuesday night dinner unless, the staff member added the finishing blow, the market price for a single cup is $70,000. A complete set of 3 sells for $250,000. As a veteran collector, he knew for a fact there were only about 100 of these left in circulation, and almost all of them were locked in the vaults of billionaires and politicians. Staring at the shards on the floor, his heart physically ached. Another Emperor's Heritage cup gone forever. The staff member made a secret vow. After his shift, he was going to sprint to Callahan's dumpster. He was going to dig out those shards. He knew a master restorer who specialized in ancient porcelain. Maybe it could be salvaged. Although the cup shattered, the damage didn't look completely catastrophic. $250,000 for a set? So breaking one is an $80,000 loss? Serafina definitely couldn't afford to replace that. Not because she was broke, but because she never imagined a cup could cost a down payment on a house. Quick, tell us about the new cup. That one looks super sketchy too. Yeah. That crimson dragon looks insanely beautiful. Way better looking than the dirt cup. Seeing the audience's rabid enthusiasm, the production team immediately told the staff member to analyze the new cup. The camera zoomed in on the dining table. Having been told the new cup was just flea market junk, Serafina ate with reckless abandon. Who would have thought the normally elegant, pristine host would be scarfing down food like a competitive eater? On the flip side, Elara and I just took a few casual bites. Eat slowly, there's plenty of food. Elara laughed, scooping a bowl of rich, fragrant chicken soup for Serafina. This is too heavenly. Serafina picked up the bowl and chugged it down. She didn't even care that soup was dribbling down her neck. Is this still my untouchable goddess? The camera panned to the wine glass on the table. A vibrant crimson dragon coiled around the pristine white ceramic body. No matter how you looked at it, it didn't look like flea market trash. That has to be the Crimson Dragon Jade teacup. The staff member thought to himself. In the antique underworld, legends say, this was the absolute final masterpiece of a certain legendary artisan. He crafted exactly 3 of these cups before passing away. Their whereabouts had been a total mystery. Who would have guessed one was sitting in Callahan's dining room? To finish his magnum opus, that master artisan had stubbornly clung to life for an extra year. Only after seeing the cups completed with his own eyes did he finally pass away in peace. So how much is it worth? Stop dumping lore on us. Who cares what master made it? We only care about the price tag. The staff member let out a heavy sigh. Someone once offered $330,000 for a single Crimson Dragon Jade teacup, and no collector was willing to sell $330,000? One cup is worth $330,000? Where the hell is Callahan getting this loot? Is Callahan the original owner? What's his connection to the master artisan? After gorging themselves, the 3 of them lounged on the sofa chatting. Serafina was terrified of letting something slip, so she mostly let Elara vent about her office drama. It was so bizarre today. Out of nowhere, a bunch of massive corporations wanted to invest in our project. Elara deliberately steered the conversation this way. She was testing the waters. I was casually munching on an apple, my eyes glued to the TV. That just proves your project is a goldmine, wifey. True gold always shines. Elara narrowed her eyes. Is that so? But all those companies were subsidiaries of Callahan Holdings. I nearly choked on my apple, spraying chunks everywhere. I decided to mix half-truths with lies. Oh, Callahan Holdings! That was founded by a buddy of mine from the International Finance Academy. The kid absolutely idolized me. He even named his company after me. Elara scanned me up and down. Idolized you? I crossed my legs, looking obnoxiously smug. If I hadn't mentored him, he wouldn't be sitting on his empire today. The livestream chat instantly exploded with laughter. I believe you about as far as I can throw a piano. The guest lecturers at the Finance Academy are all billionaires. I looked it up. The only domestic titans who lectured there were Jack Ma and Li Ka-shing. Forget the audience not buying it. Even Elara and Serafina were looking at me like I was a pathological liar. Serafina couldn't help but interrogate me. Then why does the corporate registry show that you are the legal CEO of Callahan Holdings? Brother-in-law, you're not being very honest, are you? Well, about that, my brain's gears were spinning at maximum overdrive. I helped him set up the company back in the day. I held a 1% share in it. When I was tight on cash, I just sold the shares back to him. 1% doesn't sound like a lot, but for a conglomerate valued in the hundreds of billions, Elara was starting to fall for it. Did you really have a 1% share? Otherwise, how do you explain him summoning all those investors with one phone call? The chat went absolutely berserk. How much is 1% worth? I need an econ major to do the math. I just Googled it. Callahan Holdings is valued at over 300 billion. 1% it is over $3 billion bucks. Holy mother of pearl, 3 billion. Did a gym teacher teach you math? It's over 3 billion. With that kind of money, why is he even pretending to work? Just then, a verified financial account commented in the chat. The actual transaction price fluctuates, but it's undeniably in the hundreds of millions. Buy a mansion, buy a supercar, and you still have enough left over for 10 lifetimes. No wonder he didn't blink when the antique cup shattered. He probably forgot he even had that kind of money. Everyone was shell-shocked by the phrase, hundreds of millions. They thought I was hiding maybe $1 million bucks, tops. Who knew we were operating in units of billions? The livestream chat was pure chaos. An average Joe is lucky to save a few million in their entire life. This couple is filthy, obscenely rich. Elara was completely dizzy from this sudden tidal wave of theoretical wealth. What else are you hiding from me? Show me the share transfer documents right now. I leaned in close to her and whispered, about that 1% share, I already gave it away to the subsidiaries of Callahan Holdings. Serafina nearly choked on her own saliva. She thought to herself, thank God this isn't my husband, this is a catastrophic level of financial self-sabotage. Elara was frozen in place. Hundreds of millions. Just given away? Serafina quickly tried to do damage control. What's done is done. Elara, don't get mad. Your life right now is perfectly comfortable, isn't it? Elara took 2 deep breaths. Thinking about it logically, if she actually had hundreds of millions in the bank, she'd probably live in constant paranoia about the company crashing or banks collapsing. Her quality of life might actually plummet. The way things were now, working a solid job and living peacefully, was perfectly fine. She turned to me and asked, wait, they took your shares. Didn't they give you anything in return? Just a few little trinkets around the house. I casually pointed them out to the girls. Serafina leaned in, intensely curious. You gave away hundreds of millions in shares, and all you got were a few trinkets? Everyone in the audience pinned their ears back. Even Elara, who was pretending to be zen about it, couldn't help but listen closely. I thought for a second. Well, they actually gave me quite a bit of stuff. That yellow cup we drank from was a gift from Little Wang. The meat cleaver in the kitchen is from Little Jang. The pickle jar is from Little Lai. That's about it. Elara violently shot up from the sofa. She stomped her foot in absolute fury. Hundreds of millions for some literal garbage? Are they openly bullying you? I put on my most innocent puppy dog face. But they're very useful. Serafina was also dumbfounded. Wait, that cup, is that the one I just shattered? She thought I'd at least traded the shares for some luxury assets. Who knew it was literally just kitchenware? The livestream chat erupted. Oh my God, that cup Serafina broke was worth tens of thousands. A set of 3 is over 100 grand. Not to mention the Crimson Dragon Jade Cup. Callahan is living too dangerously, using priceless museum artifacts for Tuesday night tequila shots. Elara stormed into the kitchen. She hauled out the meat cleaver and the pickle jar. She was utterly bewildered. She used this cleaver every single day. It was definitely sharper than a normal knife. The pickle jar was decent too, just a bit small. Who in their right mind would guess these were traded for hundreds of millions? The chat was scrolling at the speed of light. A multi-million-dollar meat, cleaver, and pickle jar. Quick, get an expert to appraise if they're antiques. Callahan's logic is terrifying. The production crew immediately zoomed the camera in for an extreme close-up of the cleaver and the jar. The director's hands were shaking with adrenaline. The ratings for this episode were going to shatter records. The cleaver was gleaming silver. The blade was terrifyingly sharp and polished. The decorative engravings on the blade had been worn smooth by years of use. You could only faintly make out the shape of a dragon's claw. On the handle, there was a circular stamp. Blurry text read, Callahan. The pickle jar next to it was coated in crimson glaze. It was covered in a layer of dust, about the size of a water cooler jug. The lid was sealed airtight. Although it lacked fancy patterns, there was also a Callahan stamp on the bottom. The chat was merciless. These are absolutely not antiques, I guarantee you. That jar is definitely not a chamber pot used by an ancient emperor. That cleaver is literally just a chunk of metal. Confirmed. Combined, these two pieces of junk aren't even worth half the broken cup. Little Wang, who gave the cup, actually had a conscience. At least it was a real antique. Little Zhang and Little Li definitely bought this trash at a flea market, engraved his name on it, and scammed him. The staff member on stage inspected them from every angle. He couldn't see anything special at all. He awkwardly put the microphone down. I really can't tell what these are. We need a true certified expert to appraise these. After saying that, he bolted off stage. This was the iron rule of decoding your better half. The capable stay on stage, the clueless get off. The director slapped the table in frustration. Who knows about this stuff? His gut told him the pickle jar wasn't ordinary. As for the cleaver, it's probably just a knife, right? It couldn't possibly be a legendary demon-slaying sword. The backstage crew looked at each other nervously. Nobody dared to step up. If they had the skills to appraise elite antiques, they wouldn't be working a 9-to-5 here. The director had to deploy his ultimate weapon. Audience, please hold on. We are immediately connecting with the nation's top antique appraiser. Host Penelope took the stage again. She was noticeably more subdued this time. We are now connecting live with the legendary Master Reginald. When the video call connected, an elderly man in a traditional Zhongshan suit appeared on screen. He was sitting behind an elegant mahogany desk. To book this specific expert, the production team had dropped tens of thousands of dollars. Master Reginald, famed in the antique underworld as GoldenEye Reginald, right now he was grinning ear to ear at the camera, just showing his face, saying a few words, and pocketing over 10 grand, plus gaining tons of followers. This was the easiest money he had ever made. Hello everyone. Master Reginald waved enthusiastically at the camera. The chat immediately cheered. Master Reginald, quick, tell us what era this pickle jar is from. Even though Master Reginald looked to be in his 70s, he wasn't even 60 yet. His viral fame came from a legendary internet meme. Someone once brought a museum-grade artifact to him for appraisal. He took one look and said deadpan, "Buddy, possessing this artifact will earn you a solid 15-year vacation in a federal cell." And just like that, he became an internet icon. Let's first examine the exterior of this jar. Master Reginald, having been paid handsomely, naturally put on his professional facade. But the moment he caught a clear glimpse of the pickle jar on his screen, it was like he was struck by lightning. He froze completely. This is an absolute fake. Before the audience could even process his reaction, Master Reginald was screaming in excitement. A replica. Everyone was stunned. Even an ugly pickle jar has replicas. Is this expert actually legit? A master opens his mouth and exposes his fraud. The chat mocked him relentlessly. Nobody took him seriously. But Master Reginald was hyperventilating, his chest heaving wildly. Penelope tilted her head and asked, Master Reginald, could you elaborate? The show paid top dollar for his presence. If he thought he could brush them off with one word, fake, he had another thing coming. 10 grand isn't earned that easily. I call it a replica because I have personally seen the authentic version of this pickle jar and that cleaver. GoldenEye Reginald took a deep breath. After calming his nerves, he continued lecturing the camera. This pickle jar is a legendary treasure authenticated by my master. Rumor has it, it was a priceless treasure gifted by the emperor to his royal chef 1,000 years ago. He pointed a trembling finger at the jar. I know you might find it bizarre. Why would an emperor gift his chef a knife and a pickle jar? But this royal chef was no ordinary cook. He was the undisputed culinary god of his era. The ceramic techniques used on this jar represented the absolute pinnacle of technology at the time. Pickling vegetables in it infuses them with unparalleled flavor. And that meat cleaver was forged from a meteorite that fell from the heavens. It is terrifyingly sharp. Master Reginald's tone was heavy with reverence. My master told me, if these two legendary artifacts are authentic, the market price would easily top $3 million, but they were lost to history decades ago. The ones in Callahan's possession must be replicas. The chat instantly exploded with chatter. I knew it! They're fakes. I told you little Zhang and little Li wouldn't gift him anything that expensive. Poor Callahan. But the replicas look pretty convincing. Probably worth a couple $1,000 at least. After ending the call, Master Reginald felt a complex wave of emotions. Seeing those two items reminded him of his mentor who had vanished years ago. Meanwhile, back at the house under Seraphina's aggressive insistence, I reluctantly opened my laptop. Brother Callahan, what genre of novels do you write? Seraphina asked curiously. I put on a dead serious face. I write healing novels, specifically designed to warm people's hearts. Elara looked confused. Healing novels? I don't think that's what you write. She had caught glimpses of my writing before. It was clearly those hyper-aggressive, adrenaline-pumping power fantasy web novels. The comment sections were always flooded with 5-star reviews and massive donations. But she didn't know much about the web novel industry, so she had no idea if my stats were actually good or not. I opened my author dashboard, pointing at the screen to explain. At first I thought donation points were actual dollars. When I saw millions of points, I thought we were filthy rich. Later I found out 100 donation points equals $1. I write healing novels, hoping to help readers find hope in their dark lives. As I spoke, I scrolled through my notifications. Respected author Luna Flops, you have received 1 golden ticket. Respected author Luna Flops, you have received a 1,000-point donation. Respected author Luna Flops, you have updated for 11 consecutive days. Seraphina's sharp eyes immediately caught that last line. Only updated for 11 days straight? She read a lot of web novels. Her absolute biggest pet peeve was authors who randomly went on hiatus. It seems I was also a master of the Irish goodbye. I scratched my head awkwardly. Sometimes the inspiration just dries up. You guys don't understand the agonizing struggle of writing. This statement instantly resonated with every web novel author watching the live stream. Too real. It's not that we don't want to write. It's that the words physically refuse to come out. A cup of tea, a pack of snacks, squeezing out 2,000 words breaks our backs. Some curious viewers searched my pen name, Luna Flops. Sure enough, they found a novel about to go premium. Even though it only had 200,000 words, the stats were completely monstrous. The donations and comments were insanely active. Right at that moment, Platinum author Orion also clicked into the live stream. As a top-tier god-level author on his platform, he was crowned by fans as one of the 5 supreme lords of the Central Plains. Now that he was getting older, pumping out 6,000 words a day was a Herculean task. Luna Flops, that ID sounds incredibly familiar. Orion opened the reading app and searched it. He discovered that my novel's stats were for actually rivaling the launch numbers of his own brand new book. Orion suddenly realized something. He was using his Platinum author account. When he launched a new book, his massive fanbase naturally flooded him with donations. But this rookie author, Luna Flops, had amassed hundreds of thousands of hardcore fans with only 200,000 words. Holy crap, isn't this that legendary book the group chat was hyping up? Orion violently slapped his thigh. He finally remembered where he'd seen this book, in the Platinum author's private group chat. Everyone in that chat was a titan of the industry. Selling the copyright to any of their novels fetched tens of millions. There were only 8 people in the entire group, hailing from various major platforms. Usually, they just swapped writing tips and complained about deadlines. And Daily Tips for Healing Your Soul was exactly the rookie novel they had been obsessing over a few weeks ago. A pure rookie, hitting the jackpot on their very first feature spot. The stats just skyrocketed into the stratosphere. Orion frantically scrolled through the group chat logs. This book is way too addictive. There is zero chance this is a rookie. An urban genre titan had written. His emotional pacing is light years ahead of mine. A fantasy titan chimed in. Holy crap! The plot hooks are razor sharp. No wonder the stats are defying gravity. Orion hesitated for a long time, then typed a message in the group. Is this book really that godly? The urban titan replied instantly. It's an absolute masterpiece. Old Orion, go read it right now. It's incredibly healing. The other online titans chimed in to agree. This was way too bizarre. Orion was stunned. You have to understand, these titans were incredibly arrogant and proud. It took a miracle for them to unanimously praise someone else's work. Driven by burning curiosity, Orion opened my novel. At first, he was a little confused, but as he kept reading, he fell completely into the rabbit hole. Some words just possess that kind of dark magic. They strike directly at the soul. Half an hour later, Orion reluctantly closed the novel app. He had caught up to the latest chapter, but he honestly couldn't categorize what genre it was. Was it urban fiction? It had supernatural, eerie undertones. Was it fantasy? The backdrop was a modern metropolis. The plot was a flawless chain of events, forcing the reader to unconsciously merge with the protagonist. Orion switched back to the live stream. It truly is a masterpiece. Looking at my youthful face, he suddenly felt that this young man was an unfathomable abyss. Your novel is pretty interesting. Seraphina and Elara were still giggling like idiots in front of the laptop. They had only read for 10 minutes and found the plot incredibly hilarious. I smiled and shook my head. I told you, I'm aiming for that healing effect. But the viewers in the live stream were experiencing something entirely different. After finding the novel, they eagerly started reading. Soon, the chat was tearing itself apart. This is hilarious. Reading this cured my depression. Hilarious. I'm literally sobbing my eyes out. The bizarre thing was, every single reader had a completely different experience. Some thought it was a pure power fantasy. Some thought it was a philosophical masterpiece. Others were deeply shaken by its brutal depiction of human nature. Beep! Beep! Suddenly, my author dashboard started screaming with notifications. Golden ticket +1. Golden ticket +1086. Donation +10 followers increased by 100,000. I stared at the screen. My jaw unhinged. I wasn't shocked by the massive spike in numbers. I was deeply confused about where this tsunami of readers came from. Logically, only an official platform feature could drive this much traffic. Nowadays, platforms use digressive algorithms to throttle novel exposure. I frowned and muttered to myself, this makes no sense. This is my burner account. How did I get discovered? I completely failed to notice that right beside me, Elara and Seraphina were busy pumping donations into my novel. Seraphina donated $100. She considered it compensation for the shattered cup. She even felt pretty smug about her clever solution, completely unaware that I wouldn't even bend over to pick up $100. Elara's donation was much more symbolic. She specifically donated $400. After the platform took its cut, I would receive exactly $520. Valentine's Day was around the corner. The number 5 and 20, which sounds like I love you in Chinese, perfectly conveyed her feelings. Hubby, your novel just blew up. You have to drop a mass update today. Elara watched the endless stream of donation pop-ups, sneaking glances at my thoroughly confused face, and tried to suppress her giggles. She and Serafina knew exactly what was happening. The millions of viewers in the livestream had obviously gone to search for the book. I never expected Callahan's prose to be this masterful. The detailed parts are flawlessly vivid. The fast-paced parts are clean and brutal. Why does this writing style feel so familiar? Veteran readers with sharp instincts quickly noticed something. This writing style is incredibly similar to that legendary masterpiece from a few years ago. I Came from the Underworld. That book was still sitting comfortably on the all-time bestseller list. Sadly, the author vanished into thin air the second he finished it. Forget that. Haven't you guys realized that the Moon God's writing style is identical to Luna Flop's? Prompted by this comment, people rushed to compare the two, and they realized it was a near-perfect match. Every platinum author has unique, ingrained writing habits, and the similarity between Luna Flops and the Moon God was mathematically impossible to ignore. No way, Callahan is the Moon God? The Moon God is a literal deity in my heart. Dumb question, but who the hell is Callahan? The readers discussing this in the novel forums had absolutely no idea about the Decoding Your Better Half reality show. Words are useless. Here's the link. See for yourself. Someone dropped the live stream link. The hardcore fans of Daily Tips for Healing Your Soul clicked it and saw me live on screen, logged into the author dashboard, casually chatting. They were all struck by lightning. The author who penned the greatest web novel masterpiece. Was this young? I looked to be in my early 20s at most. Even more terrifying, he was highly likely the mythical Moon God himself. This is way too absurd. If that's really him, then he's a freak of nature. When that masterpiece launched, he would have been a teenager. The comment section was a war zone. I highly doubt it. How could a teenager write something with that much profound depth? Don't underestimate the youth. There are plenty of web novel authors who hit platinum at 18. Who cares if he's the Moon God or not? As long as he finishes the damn book. Everyone calm down. Don't harass the author while he's writing. These words slowly quelled the rioting readers. Although the Moon God's novel had been debated on the forums for years, they managed to restrain their burning curiosity. After seeing Serafina out, Elara and I took a stroll around our apartment complex. Elara suddenly asked, "Hubby, are you hiding something from me?" My heart skipped a beat. I sneakily glanced at my beautiful wife beside me and said very seriously, "Wifey, I do have some small secrets, but there's a reason for all of them, if you really want to know." Elara shook her head. "Never mind whatever secrets you have, it doesn't change how incredibly well you treat me." Elara and I enjoyed our leisurely stroll, soaking in the evening breeze we hadn't felt in ages. We'd been so bogged down by the daily grind, it had been a long time since we truly relaxed. But meanwhile, in the live stream, the viewers were restless and agitated. Not seeing me and Elara on screen for an extended period, the production crew was sweating bullets. Just a few minutes without the main cast, and the chat had already started fighting with each other. It was severely ruining the vibe of the broadcast. Penelope quickly threw to commercial to buy some time. She plastered on a sugary sweet smile. "In the scorching heat of summer, what does it feel like to drink milk tea with the one you love?" Cue the insanely catchy jingle. "You love me. I love you, Snowy Delights" is sweet and true. The chat was instantly derailed by the earworm. At 7 p.m., Elara and I returned from our walk. After we washed up, the broadcast feed was cut for the night. The bored netizens dispersed. A massive chunk of them ran off to read my novel. They originally just wanted to check it out for fun, but ended up hopelessly addicted. At 8 p.m., a massive post suddenly detonated on the forums. "The reality you see is just a meticulously crafted script." The post went viral the second it went live. Clicks smashed past the tens of thousands instantly. The original poster directly fired shots at the Decoding Your Better Half production team. Season 1 featured a rural couple. The selling point was mocking their low-class lifestyle compared to city folks. That was blatant discrimination against rural communities. Season 2 featured a normal city couple, which was fine, but Season 3 is completely unhinged. The showrunners are openly insulting the audience's intelligence. They claim it's a live, unscripted reality show, but it's entirely scripted. Callahan isn't a national banquet chef, and he definitely isn't a web novel author. The moment the post dropped, the comments exploded. "Holy crap, is this true? I watch this show every day, it feels incredibly real. If Callahan and his wife are paid actors, I will literally eat garbage on a live stream." The hardcore veteran fans of the show staunchly defended its authenticity. This show had always prided itself on being raw and real. Its core mission was uncovering small secrets between couples to foster deeper understanding. In a dark, dingy room, a scrawny man stared at his monitor, sneering. His fingers flew across the keyboard. 10 minutes later, he fired off a second hit piece. How could anyone in the real world just casually give away billions in corporate shares? None of you have even tasted the food Callahan cooks. He claims it's national banquet level, and you sheep just blindly believe it? This post caused even the most loyal viewers to waver. Is Callahan really just an actor? But what about those god's-tier knife skills? And the chef certifications hidden under the bed? Very quickly, the doubts snowballed into a massive boycott hurricane. Trash TV, treating the audience like monkeys. I'm Callahan's neighbor. I see the camera crew creeping around downstairs every single day. I am Callahan. I swear on my life this is all a script. The control room was in utter chaos. The director was sweating buckets, fielding phone calls. In just a few minutes, he had received angry calls from 4 different corporate sponsors. Director! A staff member burst into the room, panicking. That forum post went hyper-viral. And what? The director roared, his voice cracking. A ton of influencers are jumping on the hate train to farm views. The staff member, trembling, handed him a phone. On the short video platforms, videos exposing Callahan as a fraud were flooding the feeds like a tsunami. The director let out a cold, dark laugh. Do they really think decoding your better half has no elite backing? He violently slammed his fist on the desk. The entire control room went dead silent. Serafina! Go stabilize the livestream chat. Old Lou, Little Wang, call Boss Sterling immediately. Request backup. Little Lee, draft a public relations statement. We are suing the rumor mongers into oblivion. Penelope, call Mr. Dong. I'll tell you exactly what to say to him. The director's eyes burned with fierce intensity. Since someone was trying to destroy his show, he was going to weaponize this controversy and push the ratings to heights never seen in television history. They had absolutely nothing to hide. This show had never used a script. All those fake, heavily scripted idol shows get to be wildly popular, so why should his genuine show be framed and destroyed? There was definitely a shadowy mastermind orchestrating this hit. Early the next morning, Elara was woken up by a frantic message from the production team. Serafina's voice note sounded desperate. Miss Elara, please, we need you to sneak Callahan's chef certifications into the studio today. We are in massive trouble. Elara was deeply confused. Why did they need the chef certifications? She opened the livestream app and nearly threw her phone at the wall in pure rage. People were actually questioning Callahan's culinary skills. Were they out of their minds? She and Serafina had personally witnessed and tasted his cooking. That level of skill wasn't just national banquet. It was easily world-class champion level. She furiously typed a reply. Stepping out of the bathroom, she bumped right into my curious gaze. Wifey, why are you up so early today? Elara quickly locked her phone screen. She coughed awkwardly. Got a massive project handover at the office? Need to get in early. I nodded. Gotcha. Let me make you some breakfast then. Yes, please, Elara blurted out. Then she immediately realized her mistake. The old Callahan claimed his cooking was radioactive waste. She scrambled to do damage control. Is your food actually edible? Maybe I should just grab some steamed buns on the way. I patted my chest confidently. Relax, I learned a new recipe online. I knew for a fact Elara absolutely despised steamed buns. Elara planted a kiss on my cheek. You're the best, hubby. She skipped off happily to change clothes. Watching her walk away, I smiled and tied on my apron, preparing to make a soothing bowl of yangchun noodles. In the livestream, the viewers were logging on in droves. Good morning, everyone. It's all because of that toxic forum post, insisting Callahan is a fraud. I'm screen recording the whole thing today to watch the haters get slapped in the face. The production team issued a solemn, pinned statement regarding the malicious spread of rumors. We will pursue legal action to the fullest extent of the law. Today, we will broadcast Callahan's cooking process completely unedited. We will let the facts speak for themselves. Host Serafina stood on stage sporting massive dark circles. It was obvious she hadn't slept a wink. At 7 a.m., a massive wave of loyal fans flooded into the live stream. On the screen, I was in the middle of making breakfast. With practiced ease, I cracked an egg into the pan. In exactly 30 seconds, I had fried a mathematically perfect sunny-side-up egg. The motions were as elegant as flowing water. Both new and veteran viewers were mesmerized. Truly a national chef, even frying an egg looks like a ballet performance. I dare the haters to say his skills are faked now. Just then, the camera abruptly cut to Elara. She was sneaking her head out of the bedroom door, looking incredibly shady, spying on me. The audience immediately perked up. What is Miss Elara doing? Something is going down. Serafina, give us the commentary. This scene feels awfully familiar. Serafina smiled and pulled up a screenshot of her chat logs. To definitively prove Callahan's status as a national chef, we asked Miss Elara to bring the national banquet invitation to the studio. We have also invited a veteran national banquet chef to authenticate it live. This massive bombshell instantly blew the roof off the live stream. So the showrunners are staging a heist for his certificates? They had no choice. It's all because of those toxic haters. If you don't like the show, don't watch it. Why do you have to slander innocent people? In the live stream, the audience was fiercely debating. Someone fired back. The production team is in the wrong here. They promised a real look at married life, and instead they are sneaking around writing scripts. Isn't that just lying? Right then, someone dropped a nuke in the chat. I infiltrated the hater group chat. They are an organized troll farm. Liking a post pays $1, making a new post pays $1.50, spamming the livestream pays $3. Here are the screenshots. Look at this. The screenshots clearly showed the troll farm coordinating exactly how to hijack the narrative. The moment this evidence dropped, the army of haters in the chat vanished almost instantly. It seems their boss had started hunting for the mole. In a luxury office at the Zhongbei Tower in the Magic City, the headquarters of a top-tier media conglomerate, a feminine-looking young man lounged on an Italian leather sofa holding his phone and sneering. They want to bust the rumors? Let them try. Even if the production team isn't faking it, this family is definitely hiding some dirty laundry. The young man absolutely refused to believe that a single person could reach the absolute pinnacle of two completely unrelated industries. If Callahan truly was both a national banquet chef and a god-level author, how could he possibly remain anonymous? It had to be a meticulously crafted PR stunt. In the kitchen, I expertly finished 2 bowls of yangchun noodles. Emerald green scallions floated elegantly on the clear broth. The aroma was absolutely intoxicating. "Wifey, breakfast is ready!" I walked out carrying the bowls, wearing the expectant expression of a rookie wanting praise. "Coming!" Elara sat down, pretending everything was perfectly normal. She took 2 massive bites. I asked eagerly, "How is it?" Elara nodded vigorously. "Delicious! You should just cook every meal from now on." Hearing that, I instantly panicked. No, no, no! Cooking every day is way too exhausting. I scratched my head awkwardly. I only learned this one specific recipe. You should definitely handle the rest of the cooking, wifey. Elara encouraged me. I think you have a real talent for cooking. Keep practicing. You'll be a pro in no time. I was laughing and crying on the inside. I had absolutely no idea how to respond to that. The chat went wild. These two deserve Oscars. One is playing dumb. The other knows everything but is playing along. After finishing her yangchun noodles, Elara slung her bag over her shoulder. "Hubby, I'm off to work." Her main mission today was to secure my chef certifications. Now that the documents were safely in her bag, she needed to rush them to the studio. She heard there was a former national banquet chef waiting there. He should be able to verify my skill level. As my wife, Elara fiercely believed that my cooking was 100% national banquet tier. Hearing so many people trashing my skills online, she was absolutely furious. "Drive safe," I yelled from the kitchen. The second I confirmed Elara was gone, I threw my hands up in victory. I obliterated the dirty dishes in record time, planted my butt firmly on the sofa, and dug my gaming console out of the cabinet. "Wife's away, time to play!" I hummed a terribly off-key tune and booted up the King of Brawlers. The chat exploded again. "Ha ha ha! Too real! King of Brawlers is my entire childhood. Camera crew, get a close-up! Let's see his mechanics!" Is this the simple joy of being a man? A huge chunk of the middle-aged viewers had grown up playing King of Brawlers. The memories of slamming buttons on arcade cabinets were etched into their souls. It's just that kids these days only play online games. Very few people touch these retro classics anymore. My fingers danced across the controller with blinding speed. I executed several flawless, devastating combos, effortlessly obliterating my AI opponent. Another flawless victory. I set the controller down and stretched lazily. Invincibility is so lonely. If only I had an opponent who could actually pose a threat. Staring at the massive co-graphic on the screen, I tilted my head back, wearing an incredibly punchable, smug expression. The livestream chat instantly rioted. "This arrogance is off the charts. Brothers, can we let this slide? The true arcade king is right here. Send me his IP, I challenge him to a duel." However, the viewers who actually understood fighting games saw the truth. Callahan's mechanics are legitimately insane. Those combo transitions were buttery smooth. Who knew he was a pro at fighting games too? The chat quickly fractured into 2 warring factions. The female viewers were deeply confused. "Why are you guys so obsessed with this? The characters look like pixelated garbage. What's so fun about it?" The male viewers replied with misty-eyed nostalgia. "You girls don't get it. This is the romance of men. Back in the day, my blood boiled just like his. Now I'm just a tired dad." Watching me play King of Brawlers seemed to unlock a floodgate of repressed memories for the audience. Everyone was young once. Everyone had their days of burning passion. But eventually, they all get beaten down by reality. Paying bills, buying groceries, and raising a family consumes your entire existence. Where did the fiery youth go? After finishing a round of fighting games, I spun my chair around to face my computer. Everyone assumed I was about to start working, preparing to write my novel. Even the production team thought this was the perfect opportunity to prove my status as a platinum author. They zoomed the camera all the way in on my monitor, magnifying the screen multiple times. However, they watched me open a folder on my desktop. The folder was simply named Resources. Instant panic. The show is losing its monetization. He's taking us for a ride. So he's into that kind of stuff too? What exactly does resources mean? Resources obviously means educational study materials. Wink, wink. I wonder if his resources are the same as my resources. The folder opened, but the contents completely shattered everyone's dirty expectations. It was a massive hoard of retro video games, and it was hidden behind layers of deceptive folders. You had to click through 7 or 8 folders just to reach them. There were tons of game files. Titles like Chronicles of Legend, Blade and Soul, Crossfire, etc. All of them were legendary PC games that used to dominate the internet. Guess I'll play some Chronicles of Legend. Haven't logged in to check things out in forever. Beat booted up the launcher for Chronicles of Legend. The pixelated, low-res graphics couldn't hold a candle to modern AAA titles, but it was the defining memory of an entire generation. I opened my character profile panel and noticed my inbox was overflowing with private messages, all of them sent over the past few years. When my character stats were broadcast to the live stream, every single person who had ever played Chronicles of Legend felt their souls leave their bodies. Even the production staff's hands began to shake. My character ID was Eclipse Warlord. Level, max level 999. Gear, absolute god tier. The undisputed loadout of a mega whale. Every single stat was maxed out to the absolute ceiling of the game's code. Eclipse Warlord. Why don't I recognize this ID? Look at that level. Even the legendary Whale Lord 8L was barely at this level, right? IDs like Whale Lord 8L, Phantom 15, and Little Shrimp were mythological gods in the hearts of veteran Legend players. Phantom 15 once soloed 50 players without breaking a sweat. Little Shrimp was the player who became a legend during the massive siege wars. The iconic phrase, "As long as legend stands, our glory stands," became his calling card. He was an incredible leader with god-tier strategic skills. Then there was Prince Crimson, a legendary figure from the same era as the Flaming Dragon. When he wielded the Dragon Slayer blade, clad in the War God armor set, and roared, "With the Dragon Slayer in hand, the world is mine!" it became the ultimate symbol of in-game dominance. As for Whale Lord 8L, basically, anyone who ever touched the game knew his name. He was the undisputed god of pay-to-win. He poured so much real-life money into leveling up that the game developers literally had to raise the level cap just for him. His iconic quote, "Don't try to challenge my pocket change with your annual salary," cemented his legacy as the ultimate tyrannical whale. But this Eclipse Warlord ID, nobody had ever heard of it. While everyone was scratching their heads in confusion, I opened my message inbox. Instantly, a flood of private messages filled the screen. "Little Shrimp, boss, when are you coming to join our clan? Whale Lord 8L. Eclipse Warlord, wanna meet up IRL? Teach me some of your PvP mechanics." Phantom 15. I completely bow down this time. "Master, please teach me. I can only solo 50 people right now. Any more and I get crushed." "How the hell do you solo 100? Every single mythological figure in the game actually knew me personally. The truth was instantly cemented. Everyone suddenly realized just how terrifying I truly was. I wasn't just a player. I was the hidden god of the whales. It's common knowledge that Chronicles of Legend peaked around 2001. By 2007, it had largely lost its mainstream dominance. It had been nearly 2 decades since its golden age. Spending $10 million on a game might not sound like infinite wealth, but anyone willing to burn $10 million on a single MMO is absolutely not a normal human being. Even a blind man could see that. A normal gamer spending a few $1,000s is already considered a heavy spender. Spending $10 million? And remaining a hidden player? But thinking about it, it made sense. I was a special cell executive chef for the National Banquet. My culinary empire from back in the day was definitely highly lucrative. Having that kind of absurd cash was totally normal. Plus, I had casually gifted away billions in corporate shares. When you factor that in, dropping $10 million on a retro MMO didn't seem so crazy anymore. If he sold that account right now, he could probably buy a luxury sports car with the cash. I wouldn't dare spend that much on a game. Well, that was back in the day. Anyone who dropped that kind of cash back then is basically a billionaire titan today. Wait, in 2001, how old was I? He started playing Legend back then? And he was already a god-tier whale? You just reminded me. Slowly, the audience realized a massive glaring plot hole. If I truly was an ancient MMO god, then I must have been incredibly young when I played the game. Having that kind of absurd wealth at such a young age, it was highly, highly suspicious. It meant my family background must be unfathomably wealthy. 10 a.m. The live viewer count for Decoding Your Better Half smashed past the 2 million mark. This was the exact target demographic the production team had been praying for. Miss Elara has now arrived at the studio. We will now invite the National Banquet chef onto the stage. Serafina's expression turned incredibly serious. They were about to prove the authenticity of their show and prove my true identity. Off to the side, Elara watched the stage curiously. After Serafina announced his arrival, a man in his 60s walked up from the lower seating area. Why was it obvious he was a chef? Because he was literally wearing a full chef's uniform. He had a slightly plump, jolly physique. It was hard not to assume he was a chef. "Hello, Chef Montgomery. Before we begin the authentication process, could you please introduce yourself to the audience?" Serafina walked over to him, holding the microphone, a sweet, professional smile finally returning to her face. "Certainly." Chef Montgomery nodded and gave a solemn introduction. "My name is Chef Montgomery. My father was a chef for the national banquet. I inherited his culinary legacy, and I've worked in the national banquet kitchens for nearly 10 years. I wouldn't dare claim I know every single chef who has ever cooked for the banquet. But if they were a head chef, I absolutely know them. This is my credential." Saying that, Chef Montgomery gestured to the massive screen behind him. A series of photographs appeared on the display. The first photo showed Chef Montgomery posing with the president and vice president of the nation. The second photo was a massive group shot of elite chefs. Standing seventh from the right was clearly Chef Montgomery. The third photo displayed a wall plastered with prestigious culinary awards and his official National Banquet Executive Chef ID badge. When it comes to bulletproof evidence, that wall of official state honors was the ultimate mic drop, because absolutely nobody has the guts to forge national state honors. If you get caught, it's straight to federal prison. How could a massive reality show dare to fake something like that in front of millions of people? He really is a master chef. The production team is flexing hard. They literally summoned a national banquet chef. This guy worked there for a decade. He definitely knows if Callahan is real or not. Obviously, if he doesn't know Callahan, then it proves Callahan is a total fraud. Look at those photos. They're all legendary master chefs. Wait, why is the chef dead center wearing a surgical mask? Everyone else took theirs off. He looks pretty young and slim. Could that masked guy be Callahan? Let's hear what Chef Montgomery has to say. The moment the photos were shown, the vast majority of the audience fully believed Chef Montgomery's identity. Only a tiny fraction of hardcore haters were still stubbornly resisting the truth. Okay, so it proved Chef Montgomery was real. But whether I was a national banquet chef still hadn't been definitively answered. Chef Montgomery, have you ever heard of a man named Callahan? Serafina knew exactly what the audience was dying to ask. She politely posed the question to Chef Montgomery. This was a veteran state chef. The political and social backing he had was incredibly robust. The only reason Decoding Your Better Half managed to book him today was because the billionaire owner of their network had personally cashed in a massive favor. Before arriving, Chef Montgomery had no idea whose identity he was verifying. He didn't even know my real name. Callahan? Hearing the name, Chef Montgomery's expression froze. How do you people know that man? Oh my God, there's actually a story here. Judging by his reaction, he definitely knows Callahan. Maybe Callahan secretly stole his recipes or something. We know him from watching the show, duh. Chef Montgomery, are you trolling us? Chef Montgomery, watch your manners. Rude much? Forget the livestream viewers getting hyped. Serafina and Elara suddenly grew extremely tense. They were terrified that my relationship with Chef Montgomery might actually be hostile. This is Elara, Mr. Callahan's wife. Callahan is currently the main guest on our show. Serafina bit the bullet and explained. Decoding Your Better Half had been airing for a while now. Chef Montgomery surely knew the basic premise of the show. Sure enough, Chef Montgomery's eyes widened to the size of saucers. He stared at Elara in pure, unadulterated shock. You are head chef Callahan's wife? Forgive my lack of manners. It is an absolute honor. The livestream chat crashed. What just happened? Elara was completely lost. She couldn't fathom why this elite state-level chef was treating her with such profound, trembling respect. Perhaps head chef Callahan never mentioned me to you, so you naturally wouldn't recognize me. Chef Montgomery's eyes suddenly welled up with bright red tears. The studio was so quiet you could hear a pin drop. Chef Montgomery's eyes suddenly welled up with bright red tears. He looked at Elara not just with respect, but with profound reverence. TXT, head chef Callahan is a living legend. Chef Montgomery finally spoke, his voice trembling with emotion. He pointed a shaking finger at the massive screens displaying the group photo of the elite national banquet chefs. The young man standing dead center, wearing the surgical mask, that is your husband, Elara. TXT+1 the livestream chat, which had been previously overwhelmed by a coordinated troll farm paid to slander Callahan, completely froze. TXT Chef Montgomery wiped his eyes. He didn't just cook, he revolutionized our entire culinary philosophy. He mentored half the people in that photograph before abruptly vanishing from the public eye. To think, he has been quietly living a peaceful life all this time. Elara, realizing the gravity of the moment, reached into her bag. She pulled out the stack of credentials she had retrieved from the small guest bedroom. She laid them out on the table. The 3-star Michelin certification, the Bocuse d'Or World Championship certificate, and finally, the National Banquet Invitation. TXT+1 Chef Montgomery carefully inspected the National Banquet Invitation. He nodded emphatically. This is 100% authentic. It has the official state seal. Anyone claiming Mr. Callahan is a fraud is painfully ignorant. TXT, with the ultimate verification from a veteran national banquet chef who had worked there for a decade, the truth was undeniable. The haters and trolls vanished entirely, leaving only millions of awestruck viewers. The Decoding Your Better Half reality show had just shattered every television record in history. TXT+1, meanwhile, back at the apartment, Callahan was still blissfully unaware. He was sitting at his computer, logged into his maxed-out Eclipse Warlord account on Chronicles of Legend. Suddenly, his phone buzzed with an incoming call from his old International Finance Academy buddy, the acting CEO of Callahan Holdings. TX+1, boss. You need to look at the internet right now, the voice on the other end screamed. You're on a reality TV show. The whole country is watching you play video games. Callahan froze. He quickly opened a browser and clicked the top trending link. There, in high definition, was a live feed of him staring at his own screen. The 7 380 pinhole cameras Elara had secretly planted were broadcasting his every move. TXT, oh no, Callahan muttered, dropping his face into his hands. His meticulously crafted persona, the lazy husband who burned scrambled eggs just to avoid kitchen duty, was completely obliterated. His platinum author identity as Luna Flops, his corporate empire, his god-tier gaming account, everything was out in the open. TXT +1. 20 minutes later, the front door clicked open. Elara walked in, followed closely by Serafina and the show's camera crew. Callahan stood up slowly, looking like a deer caught in the headlights. He nervously braced himself for a hurricane of anger. After all, he had hidden billions of dollars and multiple godlike identities from his wife for 3 years. TXT, wifey! Callahan started, his voice barely a squeak. I can explain. Elara stared at him for a long, agonizing moment. Then she let out a soft sigh, walked across the living room, and threw her arms around his neck. You absolute idiot, she whispered, burying her face in his shoulder. You hid all of that, just so you wouldn't have to do the dishes? Callahan blinked in surprise, wrapping his arms around her. You're not mad about the Callahan Holdings shares? Or the National Banquet stuff? Elara pulled back and looked him in the eye, a gentle smile on her face. I was furious at first, but watching you panic over my scraped finger, seeing you drive across the city just to buy me sweet pastries, that's the Callahan I know. You might be a billionaire CEO, a platinum author, and a culinary god, but at the end of the day, you're just my husband. TXT +1. The livestream chat erupted into a collective meltdown of joy and romance. Millions of viewers were drowning in the sweetness of the moment. Serafina stepped forward, dabbing her eyes with a tissue. So, Mr. Callahan, now that your secrets are out, what is your next move? Will you return to the culinary world? Callahan looked at Elara, then turned to the camera with his signature smug grin. Absolutely not, he declared. I'm officially retired. I gave up the corporate shares and the fame because I just wanted a quiet, vanilla life with the woman I love. My only job now is being Elara's husband. TXT paused, his face falling into a tragic pout as he looked at his wife. But I guess this means I actually have to cook dinner from now on, doesn't it? Elara laughed, a bright, ringing sound that echoed through the apartment. You bet you do, kitchen god. And I want authentic squirrel mandarin fish tonight. TXT Callahan playfully saluted her. Yes, my queen. As the camera faded to black on the laughing couple, Decoding Your Better Half concluded its most legendary episode. The world learned that sometimes the greatest secret a person can hide isn't a mountain of wealth or fame, but the quiet, profound lengths they will go to protect a simple, happy life with the one they love.